Okay. Basically, the overview of this paper is to be aware about some of the tools we have as procurement officers or suppliers to use to ensure that we are able to achieve a very good relationship and to achieve our outcome, expected outcome, based on our corporate strategy and our role as procurement function within the organization. Now, relationship probably is, in some cases, underestimated. But to be honest with you, you cannot achieve much on your own. You know, you have the proverb, no man is an island. The same way, no organization is an island. It needs to have relationship across both internal and external. And it is through this relationship you are able to accomplish your key objectives, okay, to meet organization bottom line. So relationship is very, very key. But in fact, you don't need to have a very close relationship with all your suppliers. There has to be a different type of relationship depending upon the needs of the organization. So we'll be going through some of the aspects of how we can build this relationship, okay, with some of our internal customers and external customers as well. But about that, we need to also be focused on what benefit as procurement function will be bringing to the whole organization. And that is very foremost in some of the things to influence internally and externally, which will help to raise the value of the profession across the world. So we, as Harley Reed, we try to work with a number of organizations to try and get the best out of them to be able to meet those key objectives which they desire. So let's go through, and I'll switch off my video after some time, just to ensure that probably I'm able to express and probably give you opportunity to concentrate on some of the slides rather than me alone. So without further ado, let's go through quickly what it is expected for us to achieve today. I believe I've got about 3 hours. I intend to go through each one of the learning outcome and try and look at some of the key requirements of the syllabus, and also probably to highlight areas probably you need to concentrate on, okay, to be able to pass your exams. Okay. So the first learning outcomes talk about understand the dynamics of relationship in supply chain. Understand the dynamics of relationship in supply chain. And there are 4 elements which this outcome we need to cover. The difference between different type of commercial relationship in supply chain, appraise portfolio analysis techniques to assess relationship in supply chain, and to identify the competitive forces that impact on relationship in supply chain. And finally, compare the sources of added value that can be achieved through supply chain relationship. So in the beginning, I was talking about that we have internal customers. So we, as procurement function, we are the internal supplier to the various functions within the organization. We have to relate to our senior management, okay, in terms of meeting some of the key objectives, okay, within the corporate strategy. But we also have to build relationship, okay, internally with various functions like finance, engineering, warehousing, and logistic departments, but also be the user function as well. And try to ensure that staff in other functions who carry some procurement functions, okay, within their own unit are aware about some of the policies and procedures which we have to have in place. So being internal supplier means that you are some sort of internal consultant as well, because people from other functions will come and seek information. But we need to be mobile. We need to be proactive, not reactive. We need to do management by walkabout, making relationship with these functions, because that's the only way they will understand what our role are. Okay, but sitting in our offices is not going to help us in that way. Now, the second part of it is that any internal relationship have different characteristics. Okay, sometimes it's not just about the legal aspect, okay, of commercial relationship, which we need to concentrate on. There may be direct or probably things which as internal provider, we need to probably charge. Okay, we don't do that. But I mean, basically, if we employ somebody externally as consultant, they will be paid. So in this relationship, there's no legal contract between us. Okay, between us and the various function, we don't charge fees. We are generally, able. The internal customers cannot switch, okay, and go to another supplier, okay, and we are known to most of the functions as well. So sometimes there may be conflict and differences, okay, in what we are supposed to do, okay, and in some cases it does probably affect, okay, some of our relationship as well internally, and we need to be looking at how we can build relationship and resolve conflict, okay, which is part of the syllabus which we'll be looking at. And we need to make sure that we have a way of developing a more cross-functional approach to working, okay, across the whole organization. First of all, probably to achieve a buy-in from the internal customers of ours, so that they can see where we are coming from. And then, as I said, we are more proactive to be able to help them also to achieve their goals. So you may have come across that what we call stakeholders. Stakeholders are people who impact, okay, our organization, and we impact them as well. But the key part of the stakeholder analysis is that there are three stakeholders, okay, we'll come across most of the time. The first one are some of the internal, those I mentioned earlier as internal supply, we supply to, okay, which are the members of the organization, directors, managers, and staff, okay, in the various functions. And then you have the connected stakeholders who have direct legal or contractual or commercial dealings with the organization. These people are very, very important to us because they can make and break, okay, some of the things we want to do. And so we need to be much closer to them and probably listen to what their needs are and their interests are as well. And then we have the external or secondary stakeholders. They don't have direct contractual commercial dealings with, but they are also very important. They could include government bodies and non-governmental agencies, okay, around, okay, who probably will be basically following what we are doing. And especially now, probably where probably, as I said, reputation is a big risk, okay, for people in supply chain. We need to know all these people and what they are saying and how we can bring them and engage with them to be able to ensure that we know what they want, how they want it, so that we can be able to tailor some of our services and our responses to them as well. So you need to know about these three key stakeholders because they normally come in the exams. Okay, so you need what is the role of internal stakeholders, connected stakeholders, okay, and external stakeholders. So now relationship is what we have to, it's all about. But I want you to imagine, Okay, I mean, some of you probably have got boyfriends or girlfriends or probably, but you have to think about how did you start your relationship? Now, relationship, I mean, when you don't know somebody, when the boy approach you or the girl you fancy, you approach them, I mean, basically, they don't know much about you. So most often in the beginning, and there's adversarial. What do you want to talk to me about or something like that? Okay, and so that's how it starts. But with perseverance and building a sort of rapport and trying to get the person, okay, then they, I mean, a little bit warm up to you, and then probably you start probably talking about some topic of interest, okay, but not much, okay, occasionally. And then later on, it will move on that you start to do more activities, okay, together. Maybe he likes to go to the movie or something like that. But even that, maybe probably shady at that time, maybe probably going for a coffee or tea, okay, we'll probably start to get to know each other. But the frequency, okay, of meeting, okay, increases, similar to closer tactical, and then you start to look at particular areas of interest, okay, football, cinema, probably some subject area which you are both interested in. And then you start to see that the girls like you, and they start to tell their friends. They say, well, me and Tom are item. You see, that single source. Basically, you know, they don't want other people, okay, to be involved, okay, at all. They want to have you solely as their friend, okay, who they do a lot of things with. Okay, and so that is basically, and then later on, probably you start to probably go away on, I mean, probably on trips and other things, okay, and probably look at some of the areas where probably you don't probably have much interest in, okay, and probably you allow some friends and other people to be involved in some way to help build that relationship. And then you come into your strategic alliances, okay, where probably you try to either tell your parents and other things, and then other people get involved, okay, and you start to build things together to be able to achieve, okay, a better outcome at a quicker pace. And then you go into a sort of relationship which is more closer, okay, in the partnership area, and then eventually going to co-destiny, where you become probably joined up together, mutually beneficial aspect. So, I mean, basically, what I've presented to you is a knowledge of probably how relationships are formed. You can see that probably it takes time. It doesn't start immediately. It has to be a process we start, okay, first by looking at our relationship when we want to have a supplier, okay, but we don't know much about them. So the key part of it is trying to get a deal which is good. And likewise, the supplier, they also want to have a good deal, okay? And so there, I mean, there's no aspect of any relationship. There's no trust built, okay? There's no communication. They keep things to themselves. You keep your strategy to yourself, okay? And the outcome normally is a win-lose situation. Okay, so adversarial, that's how we start. But then as we get to know the people, there may be some activities which probably we could probably give it to them. But again, at arm's length, what it is that basically there are few and far between, probably one or two aspects of activity, okay, but not frequent, maybe one off occasionally, okay. And then we'll go into the transaction, which is probably similar to arm's length, but you can see a more frequent and volume are much higher, okay, and the service probably you are receiving probably could be a bit better, okay, but still at a lower value, and then you come to basically transaction, okay, and a greater closer tactical, okay, In the closer tactical, again, the whole aspect here is that you are doing much more together, okay? Okay, but the relationship cannot be justified to be close. Okay, you can't justify to have a very close relationship with those suppliers. Okay, and you are looking for some sort of competence from those suppliers, okay, so that at least they can manage some activities for you, especially when you come up to your level 5 and professional. You'll be looking at how probably you have supply chain tiers, okay, within your network. And I mean, this is an area where probably you can give it to a supplier probably to manage from few activities, okay, so that you don't have to deal with all suppliers, okay, within that network, okay. And then you come to single source, as I said. With a single source, there sometimes probably the value and the volume, okay, or spend is not high enough, okay, to make it attractive to other suppliers to get involved. So the best thing is that you want somebody, okay, who is a safe pair of hand and can deliver the outcome you wanted. Now, again, it needs not to be confused with sole sourcing, okay, where probably there's only one supplier there. But here, you have decided as an organization, basically, to get just somebody who is good at what they do. They have the right quality and the right competence to meet your needs. But probably the spend, if you fragment it into probably various lots, it will not be attractive for people to go after it. Okay, again, there has to be some sort of trust, because you may have worked with these people for some time, so you know their capabilities and competence before you can probably do that. Then you come to a source. Mostly in procurement, okay, and by most management, I mean, this is started probably in the 80s when we talk about probably downsizing organization, looking at exactly what we do, okay, and what other people can do better for us, okay. And so, I mean, a source.
Megan, you know, I can already just see it in my mind. How she spoke.
There's somebody, can you mute yourself, please, if you are talking to, because you are disturbing the group. Thank you very much. Okay. Now, so when we talk about a source, we are talking about areas where we can do the job, but we know there's somebody who can do it better. They can do it better, give us better outcomes, and at a lower cost. They have the right quality and they can do it, okay, at the fraction of the cost, okay, and probably can do it more faster and quicker. And so we do that. We give some which we call activities which we call non-core. Okay, it is not our bread and butter, but they are necessary activities. But we know somebody can probably do the deliveries and logistics for us better than we can do at a lower cost. And so we can outsource that work or activity to that third party. Now, again, there has to be trust there, because you can see that we're moving towards a closer relationship. There has to be trust, but there are also difficulties around outsourcing, which probably we need to be aware. Okay, that, I mean, basically, what if that supplier who we trust and we gave that responsibility let us down? Now, from the customer point of view, okay, they will view us as still responsible, because the contract they have with us is we now have a subcontract or outsource it to a third party to deliver that service for us. Okay, so we need to be engaging with these suppliers to make sure that they are keeping some of the KPIs, the key performance indicators, or the terms and conditions within those contracts. Okay, there are risks there as well, where we need to be about how much information can we give. The aspect of confidentiality or intellectual property aspect, which we need to think about. And then we come to strategic alliance. I mean, recently, Starbucks have merged with a paper converter, probably to produce a more biodegradable cups for their coffee and other things. Now, I mean, Starbucks, okay, as it is, can probably do it on its own, but which means it has to start the whole process of building the plant of paper, converting and other things. But now they have the skills, they have the customers, okay, and they have the money. They have now come together with these manufacturer of paper and packages and other things to develop this particular project. Okay, now that's what you have with strategic alliance. Now it is also very, very good, especially when you come to your level 6, you'll be thinking about that, because this is another way you can probably get into a market, okay, and learn about the market by working with people, okay, organization within the market quickly to understand the terrain, the nuances, the culture, and other things. I mean, that's part of what the Japanese did, like Toyota did in America. We have Honda in the UK who did it with British Leyland, and then they get to know. There are risks also around that. But again, there has to be something somebody is bringing, and they have that competence, and you are doing this based on trust. And then you come to your partnership where you are basically joined up together and we are working together. That it's a win-win situation. Basically, you want to, I mean, your supplier to contribute something. Who can bring some innovation, they can bring finance into that relationship. And also ensure that probably you are meeting those key objectives, okay, to satisfy or excel, okay, exceed in the aspect of the expectation of your customers. So here you are working together, okay, and then you come to the code destiny where probably you are inseparable, you are interdependent, okay, in that aspect. Now, the key point in all this is based on some of the things which make or drive this relationship. And you can see in the middle of the slide, I mean, it's talking about the durability or duration of the relationship. Now, within the competitive tactical situation, it's very short term. Whereas probably when we're looking across from, I mean, probably a source to going to code destiny, we are looking at long contract or long relationship with that. Now, I'm not saying that there will not be problem, but that because you are looking at this relationship and you are working constantly, you are involving and learning more about each other and probably see where there are problems, okay, and that leads us to developing the rapport, okay, and the understanding and then building of trust, okay, so you know the capabilities and how far these people will go. And then also the communication is more regular and frequent and probably at different levels of the relationship. Okay, there will be people who are probably doing on the operational side, but there will be other people within the strategic areas who are communicating with their suppliers, I mean, partnership team, and then probably making sure that the key aspect is all achieved. And because you are working together, okay, you probably do things and you are able to solve problems. So you can see that on the left-hand side, the competitor, there's no trust there. There's no, I mean, the short-term communication is limited, okay? And the problem solving, I mean, they solve their problem, you solve yourself. So there are things probably, here we got about 4, but I have probably in my mind, and you can probably note, probably first of all, like as I said, the relation, you need to get to know each other. You need to probably establish some sort of rapport, okay, with the other party before, okay, you start probably doing small projects with them, and then probably get to know them, and then you start to build the trust. There has to be some high level of, I mean, information exchange between for partners, okay, or probably for people who to drive that relationship. Whereas probably as in the collaborative aspect, okay, that's what you need. Without that, you cannot build a very informed relationship with that. You need also to ensure that, I mean, you have joint problem planning, joint risk assessment, joint, I mean, problem solving and communicating, I mean, more. Also, there has to be some aspect of Kaizen, continuous improvement. okay, for especially when you are going towards the partnership co-destiny, you need to have continuous improvement, okay, and mutual dependency, gain sharing, not that we make more than our partners. We should be looking at the planning and say, what are we going to get out of it? Are we going to share the pie, okay, which we get out of it? So this is very, very fundamental, and you'll be seeing this slide probably in different form throughout your course, okay? But this is the foundation. Once you have that, when you come to looking at improving your strategies and probably again improving your relationship at strategic, okay, or tactical level, this will be part of the things you need to think of, okay? So I think I've spent a lot of time on that. I'll move on. So what relationship is best? Now, there's nothing to say that the relationship, one relationship is better than the other, but there are key things we need to look at. Now, what is the importance of the items we are procuring? Okay, that will determine probably the type of relationship we are having. Now, again, the competence, the capability, cooperation, and performance of the supplier could be another factor we need to think about. And the geographical distance, okay? I mean, you cannot probably, you can have what you call a telephone, but sometimes there's a risk at it, because when you look at in terms of loss in translation of that things, okay, but there are advantages also probably having geographical distance, okay, in terms of probably you can be sourcing from low cost economies, which can also bring added value, okay, and because of that, they can do it at a lower cost, which would then give you some sort of competitive edge, okay, in the market. You need to have people who are prepared to bend backwards, okay, to ensure that the needs, okay, to achieve the objectives are met. So you want people who have the same value, the same thinking process, okay, and they are going to bring added value, some sort of innovation or change, okay, to the table. Again, I mean, you need to ensure that the priorities, okay, of your organization and that of the procurement function, okay, are being met. The supply market conditions are also relevant because we need to understand what is taking place in the market. Now, we have seen a disturbance or probably disruption in our market, supply market, through COVID recently. Now, if we have stronger relationship, okay, probably towards a partnership, now, then our suppliers will prioritize us, okay, over those people who they don't probably have more adversarial relationship with. And so it could help us also to achieve the continuity of supply and the security of supply, which are the two key objectives of part of our function. But also, it's a relationship which will also ensure that it's not going to bring us into a major risk and then an impact on our reputation. So we want suppliers who are going to probably be compliant with the law, okay, and make sure that they are involved, they are not involved in modern slavery, they are not involved in child labor use, but be ensuring that people are paid fairly, giving equal opportunity and fairness, okay, to the people within their network, okay, and ensuring that health and safety and all those things, okay, are being met. So that would be the best relationship. The person, as I said, probably in single, so it's a safe pair of hands. They are dependable, they are able to achieve what the OPB exceeding what you're expecting of them. So how do you measure, okay, the strength of your relationship? Now, this probably you'll come across probably in what we call the product life cycle, but have been adapted, okay, to, show how relationships are formed, okay. In the product life cycle, we say from birth to death, okay, from cradle to the end, is the same. But the point is when you start your relationship, the activity level probably is low. There are a lot of huge amount of input you may need to, okay, to ensure that probably you have got the right supplier. Okay, but then the relationship starts with building up projects or probably buying more from them, and then gradually you come to the maturity stage where probably you are doing more activity, okay, and volume and value, okay, of your relationship is increasing, and you are getting the best from both parties, okay, and they are coming to you with some ideas, okay, and probably early supply involvement and all those things are happening, and you are achieving the optimums and best, okay, of outcomes which you desire. But again, like everything, okay, like any marriage or relationship, you need to occasionally refresh it. Other than that, it will decline. It will decline. So we need to be looking at what are some of the challenges within those relationships and how can we repair and improve them, okay, so that we don't come to ultimate decline. But there are, especially in the public sector, sometimes it is difficult to form a long-term relationship because of the regulation, the Procurement Act and other things. They don't allow them to have relationship, okay, longer relationships like probably you can have in the private sector. But increasingly, we are seeing through public partnership, okay, that you can have long-term relationship, okay, where there are risk shared, okay, similar to probably the sort of joint venture type of things which we think of in strategic alliance and partnership areas, okay. But occasionally the relationship will come to an end, either because we have achieved what we wanted, okay, and probably we build another level of activity. So the stronger part is showing the point I was making earlier about, okay, mutual benefit, mutuality, and interdependency, okay, and the number of activity, the building of trust, the building of sharing risk, the sort of joint planning. These will show the strength, okay, in your relationship. So some of the aspects I've been giving this slide, I mean, the pre-relationship stage, as I was saying, the evaluation of potential suppliers, okay, in the beginning, there's inertia. As I said, your girlfriend will reject you and say, no, no, I don't like you. I don't want to go out and have tea with you. Okay, but that is a normal stage of development of relationship because you're not familiar with the person. Okay, but as you go on and you find out and you know more, then you start to explore more. I mean, contract discussion, negotiation about things, testing each other and giving trial orders, as I said, to test whether they can meet the thing. And then you come to the development stage where probably the relationship is growing in terms of volume and character in a positive way. And then there's increasing contact, familiarity, trust, information sharing, and problem sharing. And then you come to the mature and stable stage where deliveries are just become like second nature, okay, and everything is being achieved, and probably you are doing some more major projects together, okay? So please think about that because this can come as a possible examination question, okay? I mean, what are the stages of relationship development? Now, either it could come as probably the graph you've seen, or probably to be able to talk about these four stages in terms of pre-relationship stage, exploration stage, development stage, and mature and stable stage. Okay. Now, so how do we, find out who are going to be our key suppliers and those who are going to be not our key suppliers? Now, these two, Pareto analysis, okay, which also is known as the 80-20 rule. Please note that because you may come across in your textbook being 80-20 rule, but it is basically, it's a universal law that in most cases, about 80% of your spend will be related to probably about 20% of your suppliers. That's where you, and so these Pareto analysis, which we also use in terms of stock management, okay, okay, stock control and inventory management, okay, is that basically it's a segmentation of your suppliers. It's a segmentation tool, just like CrowdCheck. Okay, and what it does is that in the A item, you can see they are probably the 20%, what we call the vital few. Okay, 80%, okay, of your spend will be with those 20%. So the level of relationship you must have has to be in the co-destiny area. Okay, collaborative, more collaborative have to take place because they are in that zone. The B suppliers, okay, probably average probably around basically 15, 20 or more, okay, percent of your suppliers, okay, there again, they will probably achieve probably in terms of value, probably about, say about 10% of that, okay. But again, they also deserve to have some sort of relationship, but not at the same level as probably you have, okay, with the A. Okay, and then you come to the C, which are the majority. Okay, but the point is that they represent only 20%, okay, of the value. Only 20% of the value. So the tables have been turned around. Okay, 80% of your suppliers are only probably working with you, okay, in terms of your spend, about 20% of your spend, roughly. Now, and so the type of relationship, okay, is not going to be the same. And that's key, because when we come to looking at CrowdCheck and all that things, you can't probably pinpoint and put all your suppliers there. I mean, especially in terms of the 80% of your supply, they will probably fit in probably around your adversarial arm's length and probably tactical and probably transactional area. More so because there are a lot of suppliers in some of the items we buy around those things. And so switching suppliers will be easy. However, probably when we come to the A and B, okay, they may be of high value and high risk. And so we need to pay particular attention, and that is where we need to invest most of our time and effort, okay, and working collaboratively with them. So I talk about high risk and high value. Okay, but this slide talk about the risk grade. But we need to, first of all, probably, I'm sure in your textbook, you need to be able to know what we call the risk cycle, probably to know how you identify risk, okay, probably looking at the type of the risk, the intensity and frequency and their impact is very, very vital, okay, in that you should, I mean, because that's the measurement, okay, that we know something is going to happen, but we don't know when. But then when it does happen, what is going to be the impact? So is it going to be a low impact, okay, or a high impact? And so that's what this grade is about. The level, the likelihood of occurrence, and then the impact, okay, is going to determine, okay, the type of risk it is and how we should try and manage it. So here in the A column, what we have in is a low likelihood of occurrence and low impact. Okay, so it's a low level, I mean, risk. And then when we look at the B, again, a high occurrence, but still the effect to the organization and probably your supply chain is very, very low. Okay, however, in terms of relationship, okay, again, it's low because you can't possibly, okay, switch to avoid, okay, those type of risk. Okay, then you come to the CD, okay, low occurrence but high impact. And then D, high impact, okay, with a high level of frequency of occurrence. Now, and so basically you need to understand that as you build relationship, okay, you need to be cognizant of probably the possible risk which exists, okay, in these type of relationship. Because especially when we're talking about single source. Okay, now the whole aspect is that the person has to be somebody you can trust. Okay, and so you'll be able to minimize your risk. Okay, in that aspect. Now you need to probably try and understand. Okay, how this related to your risk mitigation strategy, the 4 T's. Okay, so probably that's something for you to look at. What are the things which you want to avoid? Okay, that would be the area basically, okay, of your high risk, okay, and high frequency. Okay, now basically you cannot be able to deal with those things. Okay, and so probably you may decided either to terminate, okay, in those areas. But those probably in that you try to either tolerate it, okay, or treat it, or in some cases where probably you cannot deal with it on your own, okay, and you think the risk, you can transfer it, okay, either through contract means, okay, we will come to that. Yeah, okay. Contract means. Please, can you mute yourself if you are going to talk to somebody, please? Thank you. Okay. Now, so you need basically to ensure that either you transfer the risk to your supplier, okay, or probably through your contract terms, through terms and conditions, which is going to, they can indemnify you by taking an insurance or something, or you yourself can take insurance to cover some of these risks as well. So I mentioned CRICHEC when I was talking about Pareto analysis, that is a segmentation tool, but this is a model you are going to be sick with, because it is basic fundamental to most of the things you are going to do. And I think you need to learn that, thoroughly understand its application. Here, what we are talking about when we're talking about relationship, that some of the items which will probably be a low cost impact and a low risk impact, okay, will form into the routine suppliers, okay. Low value items, I mean, there's a lot of work associated with these suppliers, okay, and then a lot of variety of availability of suppliers in the market. The example given there are stationary suppliers. So you could switch from one supplier another if they are not performing to what you want, okay, or you can go for the best value, whoever is giving you the best. Remember, this is within the arm's length transactional area, so it's a win-lose situation. And then you come to the leverage area, where we have power as as buyers, but the leverage supplier, probably again, there's an amount of people on the market, supply and demand. There's a lot of suppliers in the market, okay. Again, the aspect of what we are looking for can be met by other people. So this is exactly where we in procurement have more power, okay, to leverage our spend to get the best, okay, in terms of outcome for our organization. But then we come to the high impact, okay, and cost impact, okay, high cost impact, okay. There you have the strategic suppliers, okay, and your bottlenecks. Now, this is the high risk, high value area. Now, with the bottleneck suppliers, basically it could be monopoly, okay, or they have big market dominance in that aspect. And so you need to build some sort of relationship with them. You need to be a relationship with them. Now, you may not be able to influence them on price, but you may be able to influence them in terms of probably prioritizing your needs, okay, than other people, okay. And so you need to work with them. Now, because although some of the items here may have been of low value, okay, basically, if it happens, it could have catastrophic damage to your organization. In one example, in one of the work with oil and gas, okay, I mean, basically, somebody in their wisdom thought that they can basically negotiate with somebody, a supplier who have got a monopoly in the market. And so, well, the price is too much, I'll go somewhere. And say, okay, you go to somewhere. Because they know that that plant is built by them. Probably they have been holding these spare parts for them, okay, because that relation is coming to a decline. So there's a shakeout in that industry, okay, and so they are the only or few dominant suppliers in the market. And then you try to, instead of building relationship, try to challenge them. In the end, I mean, it costs the company quite a lot of money to get the spare parts, okay, because the plant was idle for about a week or so because they couldn't get the item, okay. So bottleneck items may be of low value, but they are very important, and that's why we say that the report is a high risk. It's a high risk but low value, probably in terms of that. When we come to our strategic suppliers, basically they are critical, they are bread and butter. We cannot probably do anything without them. Okay, they give us some of the key inputs which goes into our production or our services, and so we need to be very close to them. And so they are coming to the partnership or strategic alliance areas or co-destiny. Okay, we need to build that relationship with them, stronger relationship with them. Now, but at the same time, we are looking from the perspective, I mean, the suppliers also probably look at us, okay, and so they view, how do they view our organization? Excuse me. How do they view our organization as well? The supply prevention model provides that. That provides that, because we may think that this supplier, okay, we are dealing with is a strategic supplier to us, but probably in their analysis, probably our spend is just a fraction of their true output, okay, in terms of the sales they get from us. It's just a drop of the ocean. And so we may fall into the aspect of either exploitable or probably a nuisance. A nuisance in where probably we are not paying them on time and other things. Then we'll go at the lower end, okay, when they need to prioritize, okay, their supplier or deliveries or needs, which we are looking for, will come at the lowest part. Now, however, probably they could probably exploit us to drive a premium price, okay, and then seek a short-term advantage, okay, and probably the aspect of losing the suppliers is not okay. Okay, all right. Then the key point is that to and then the development part is that probably they see the potential in us, and so they want to also probably form a mature relationship with us, and then the core aspect of it. Now, so we need some time to do the survey to see exactly how we are. Okay, how do the suppliers perceive us? Okay, so talking now, looking at the purchasing environment as a whole, but if you look at your procurement function in the middle, you see that you are surrounded by the organization, okay, the people we are talking with, okay, all the time, okay. So we should be looking at that, and then probably looking at the macro, okay, environment which we operate, okay, which is probably our industry, okay, and then the macro is the whole economy, basically, okay, and these are things we need to be aware of when we are assessing, okay, probably our procurement environment. Okay, so what do we need to do? As procurers, we need to do purchasing research. We need to understand our environment. We need to understand our industry. Okay, who are the key players in the industry? What is the competitive position there? And then assess the critical success factors necessary, okay, to be in that industry. Okay, and look at the supply, demand, and forecasting, and the vendor analysis. Who are our vendors? What role can they play? Okay, now, and again, probably this is basically starting from the beginning to the end. Okay, we are doing vendor analysis. It's ongoing, because both in terms of bringing the suppliers in and also the suppliers, okay, assessing them, validating them, doing the vendor analysis, making sure they are meeting the contractual requirement, and also ensuring that the market, okay, aspect that we understand, okay, their capability and risk. And then we know what is happening in the supply market as well. What are the changes for the economy, supply and demand? Okay, what are the political risk and other things which will impact on the market as well? So, I mean, I'll leave that because probably most of these aspects is probably what I'm talking about when we talk about the sleep, okay, which will help us to analyze some of the environment, okay, on which we operate, the political, the social, cultural, and the technological aspect which impact, okay, our supply chain and also impact on our relationship. Because I think technology probably has helped, probably especially going to the tail end of our relationship, okay, the co-destiny, where we are using a lot of technology to establish more closer relationship, especially through enterprise resource planning, where some of our key suppliers could have view to our platform and able to respond. The economic situation, recession, depression, and all those things also have impact on the relationship, okay? And now ecology, environment, climate change, okay, are a big aspect we need to consider. I think I mentioned probably some of the things which goes into the Global Compact, okay, the UN Global Compact about respecting the right of your workers and other things, and probably making sure you pay them equally, and you have a diversity of suppliers within that. The key aspect around the environment is about probably the aspect of the climate change, okay, also in terms of reducing some of the aspects of damage to the environment in that way, the green gas effect and other things. Political, is it a stable area, or is it a legal? What are the legal requirements? As I said, we need a supplier who's going to comply with that, and then also to be ethical, to be fair to also the suppliers, okay, as well, ethical, okay, doing things which is never going to probably impact on society and the suppliers and other people. We need to be fair in our dealings with them. So I believe I'm running out of time, okay, especially, but I mean, the SWOT analysis is basically looking at your strength, your weakness, and you are looking at your internal aspect of it. The opportunity and threat, okay, can also be looking at the opportunity open to you, but also looking at from the external point of view, okay, what are the threats within your environment which you need to look at as well. The Porter's 5 forces give us one aspect of measuring, okay, the competitiveness within our industry. Now, again, how do this change our relationship? Because substitute coming in could affect some of our relationship, especially where probably we are working with suppliers who are not probably coming of innovation and probably charging it more. New substitute coming to them will change the market dynamism, okay, and probably change the relationship as well. Okay, so we need to be aware about that. We need to look at the bargaining power of buyers and the bargaining power of suppliers. Who are the key people within that industry? Is it a buyer's market or is it a supply market? So your econometrics, okay, which we call the economy and the industry, the rivalry within the industry is very, very important, okay, which will also drive the type of relationship we have with people there. So Portes, you'll be coming across this guy in number of areas, came up with some aspect where we can probably develop our competitive advantage. But I think probably there must be a slide probably somewhere before that, from my point of view. Any industry you are going in, there are two key things you need to. What is the threshold, competence, or things which are required in that? Now, you need to have the basic threshold, and then also to differentiate, you need to have your core competence, the things which is unique to your organization and which is difficult, your USP, which is difficult for other people to imitate. Now, Porter's competitive strategy probably is the primary probably strategy tool we can use. Now, it's talking about the scope of the competition in terms of broad industry wide and the narrow market. Okay, but the key thing is that, do you want to be the lowest cost in that? Because you can, if you have good suppliers and you are able probably to source things from low cost economies, then you may be able to get some of your input at a lower cost. And so also using efficient source manufacturing and all that thing, that will give you that competitive in terms of price to the market. And so you become a cost leader. Alternatively, you could be in the same broad market, okay, or industry wide, and still probably get a premium price by differentiating, probably bringing higher quality, or probably the packaging or the way you design or do things can give you that advantage as well. But then when you come to the narrow market, okay, where we have both the cost focus or cost differentiation, you are looking at a smaller, or what I call a niche part of the area of your market, where probably you try basically to either have a lower cost there and also probably try and differentiate, okay, to improve the outcome, okay, and achieve competitive advantage over other suppliers or organization in that market. So, I mean, that's the two, the threshold competence and the core competencies. I mean, distinctive value creating skills and capability and resource, okay, that will add value in the eyes of the customer, and scarce and difficult for competitors to imitate, and feasible for future needs. Now, I think you need to know this because it's likely that questions of that nature will come in your exams as well. So the 5 rights, I'm sure probably you come across it. I mean, this is basically the things we in procurement need to know. Are we getting it at the right quality? Are we getting the right quantity being supplied to us? Or are we having short supply every now and then? Because that will not be good, especially when we are having a production run and we want those quantities to be able to do that. And then, are we getting at the right price? Are we getting at the right time? And is it being delivered at the right place? Or probably is delivered at the head office when we want it to be developed on site? These are all pertinent things we need to look at. Okay, and I'm sure probably you'll come across the 6th right, which we call the right source, okay, or the right supplier, okay, which is very important to that. So I will probably talk quickly on this and then see exactly where we are, and then we can do question and answers, okay? Now, Porter's value chain also probably gave us this model. But what he's saying is that you have the primary activities, okay, where you have the inbound logistics, where raw materials are coming into our organization, okay, and then we'll convert them, okay, into a finished product, and then it goes out, okay, to probably our distributors, and then to sales and marketing, and then probably to the service or people who will buy it. Now, you can see that at the end, we have a margin. So what is saying is that each of these processes should be value adding, okay, to the finished product, to give it that value, increased value, which we can then probably sort in the market to make a profit. But we cannot do all these things without the support activities, like procurement, like the technological development, like getting the right type of staff and skills and all that things, and the firm infrastructure. So all of them working together will give us the able to achieve, okay, the organization bottom line, which we desire. Okay, so we need to work to ensure that each of these segments is bringing value adding. So we can achieve value adding to quantity, okay, again, making sure that we are not holding too much stock, or probably we are holding it just to ensure that we foresee some problems ahead so that we're having no stock out, okay. Again, we are holding it because we are able to achieve value by buying bulk, okay, to receive bulk discount, so that we'll make the cost per unit of our material a bit lower into going to our conversion process. And also probably, again, in some cases too, we know the economy is going to rise. I mean, after now already we are experiencing okay, because COVID, a lot of price rises, all right, because of the scarcity. And so we may probably hold more stock, okay, to prevent or protect against price fluctuations and other things like that. Again, the downside is that too much of stock, okay, will be that we are locking, money in our stock, locking capital, which we call opportunity cost. We could probably put them into something which is going to give us a better return on that investment. But obsolete and probably theft and other things could also occur, okay, around those areas. So again, this is a typical examination questions, okay, you need to be aware about the value add, which, quantity can bring, okay, in the supply chain. Now, waste, again, is a major problem. So eliminating waste, okay, is very important. And Tachiono, serving waste is very important. And I think probably we have made it in the way so that you can see, and then to remember, you have to think of what we call teamwork, okay? Transportation, over transportation is a waste. Inventory, moving, and waiting time, because when you are waiting, you are still paying your staff, your machine time is idle, okay? It's a loss of, opportunity, okay? Overproduction, just in case and holding to, it's also not good, okay? Because again, you are locking capital, okay, in that, and over processing is again probably is also not, because it is also adding cost. And when you have to have defect and you have to correct it, okay, the cost of reworking is adding more costs. So it is important to be able to think about, the serving waste. Now, again, please revise that. If I'm an examiner, I'll be asking questions around that, okay? So improving quality, again, okay, through supplying the best suppliers, okay, and having your segmentation into your approved, okay, preferential supply and strategic suppliers will help you to ensure that you are able to allocate activities to the right supplier who is going to bring you those added value. Okay. And again, we need to ensure that probably what we are looking for in terms of specifications and other things are being met, okay, to bring that value aspect on that. So I will, basically stop here, because we can we have some question and answers for the first learning outcome, please? Let me see in the chat room what is there. Okay, so I'm slightly late, 15 minutes, but okay. Any question and answers, please? Feel free for about 10 minutes. You can unmute and then probably carry on, ask questions, please. We've got about, I'll say 50 people online. Are you all happy with what I've done so far? There's no questions at all?
Mr. Tom, we have Tembi. She's saying, please let's go back to Potter's 5 courses model.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. The Potter's 5 forces model, it is basically to assess, okay, the competition, okay, within your particular industry. Okay. It is to assess the competition within your particular industry. Now, if you look in the middle, it's talking about rivalry among existing competitors. So every industry, there are people all jostling for position, and it's going to be more now with the COVID. Now, as we emerge, okay, from this pandemic, there will be more people looking for jobs and opportunities to be able to grow their business, which have been probably somehow on their knees at the moment. So there'll be a fierce competition, okay, to get your contract. But the key thing is that in this marketplace, there are players which also, influence what is happening within that competition. Here we have probably the threats of new people who want to come in. Now, in most industry, probably it is probably easy probably to come up. We are seeing in the technological industry at the moment, people are coming with different apps and other things like that. And probably people sitting in their room and developing new ways of probably engaging with the customers and other areas. And that probably although probably there is some cost implication, it's not that much. So people can enter into the industry. In some cases, probably the entry into there'll be a lot of barriers, okay, to prevent people coming into that industry as well. Okay, but if it comes in, it is going to also either disrupt the competition or the which is existing, the rivalry which is existing in the industry. Okay, and so that could cause some sort of level of change, okay, a market change. Okay, it could change the market as well and the behavior within the market. The same also is the threat of substitute. Okay, when substitute comes in, they disrupt what is there already. Okay, because it offers us in procurement opportunity to experiment with new ideas or new innovations or new material coming to the market, which probably can do even better than the existing materials or for the equipment or things we are using in that. And so also what it does is it changes and shifts the market again. Okay, it shifts the market and the key players who are probably dominating that market. And those people who dominate it will be probably the suppliers or the buyers. Now, when we say it's a buyer's market, which means, as we saw in some of the analysis, that there's abundance of suppliers or the goods or services we are looking for, okay, so we can get it at a lower cost. So we dominate, okay, we can choose to buy from suppliers, we can switch suppliers, okay, as a want, we'll take into consideration some of the risk factors and other things like that. Then when it is a suppliers market, then which means there's a few scarcity, okay, what we call in economic, the scarce resource, okay, or the output from the suppliers is less than what is being demanded by us. So you have more buyers chasing suppliers to probably supply their product to them. And that also have impact on the five forces, again, impact on the market and impact on the players within the market. I hope I've clarified it a little bit for you. Next question. Any more questions? Okay. Because we are already late in coming to this position, can we have a 5 minutes break or so? And we'll come back for my time, which will be 9:20. Already eating one of you. Let's come back at let's say 9:25. Okay, 9:25. Okay, and then we can continue with the second learning outcome. Okay. Thank you very much. Okay, if we can start the second session, please. Okay, this second learning outcome, basically is this second learning outcome. We'll be looking at understand the processes and procedures for successful working with stakeholders. The first aspect is analyze the purpose of organization procedures and processes in sourcing goods or services. Compare team management techniques to ensure positive stakeholders relationship, and compare the practical consideration of stakeholder management and identify the process for terminating stakeholder relationship. So, what I've done is probably look at, approach the procedure, okay, through the eyes of the procurement cycle, okay, because that's our fundamental principles where we start. And I'm looking at the moment, okay, identify the needs. In identifying the needs, we need probably to have what we call procurement planning. Okay, we need to have procurement planning. Now, what it means is that we need to look at, okay, what contract packages we are going to use. We need to think about aggregation of our procurement requirement, okay, in order to achieve economy of scale, okay, because, you know, through aggregation, okay, now in the leverage column of the CRI-check, we are able to play a key role to have value, okay, through negotiation, or probably the volume we buy, we can probably get some volume discounts and other things. We also need to look at, okay, the sources of funding. How are we going to finance, okay, some of the requirements for the organization? Now, we need to ensure that there's a budget verification and commitment to the fund, okay? So especially in the public sector, a lot of people have to put their procurement plan in before the year end or the financial year, so that at least the government will be able to say how much money in the kitty will be allocated to do some of the the government or the country requirement. Now, in the private sector, it's the same. We can't just willingly go and commit the organization to spend where we haven't got the budget to underpin it. We need to look at the estimated cost of each package. All the things in our plan, how much is it going to cost us? Which procurement method are we going to use, okay, to achieve, okay, the needs, to meet the needs? What the processing steps and the times, okay? So throughout the year, okay, we should have activity plan, okay, at which time we can commit and probably either have whatever procurement procedures we are going to have, okay, so that at least everybody is aware. And so if they have to bring their requirement to us, okay, or we will go and talking to the especially internal customers so that we can meet their needs. We need to work on the schedule of deliveries, okay, to ensure that we are able to meet probably production deadlines and implement key project requirements as well. But in doing all that, we need to have the understanding that we need to achieve, okay, best value. That the best value could be measured in terms of what we call value for money. And there are 4 key things we need to look at. And here we have what we call the 4 E's. Now, it's a typical examination question, okay, area, so you should know what goes into your 4 E's. Now, what do we mean by the 4 E's? Which means we need to be able to achieve either a reduction in the price of goods and services we're buying, okay, or probably getting the same, but probably at a lower cost. Or probably those extras like delivery costs and other things, we were able to negotiate to have it at the same price we were paying the year before. So it's, basically a cost saved. And so that brings value, economic value to the needs, okay, in meeting the needs. But also efficiency, okay, is also very important. How can we get our product to market quickly? That means we need to get the right material and then being converted at the right time and to be ready to meet customer requirement. Now, ensuring that probably the material which we buy, okay, of the quality which is required, and we don't have stop and go in our production process, that is going to give us that sort of efficiency. So especially if probably the aspect of probably negotiating, okay, before the lead time for delivery is probably 3 weeks, but we are able to reduce the lead time to say 2 weeks. That is time saved. And that time saved will give that efficiency, okay, in terms of meeting what we need. And so that will also bring added value. And then effectiveness. The key point is that those two aspects of the E, the economy and efficiency, have to be balanced, okay, in order to achieve effectiveness. So we were able to negotiate at a good price, and we got the right the material, but then, okay, there was the material is not fit for purpose, and so there was a cost of reworking it. Okay, that basically all that benefits we achieve both in terms of the economy is lost, and therefore we are not being effective, okay, in achieving that value for money. But in driving that value for money, we should be fair. Equity means fairness. We have seen cases, okay, within the supply chain where we have been too heavy-handed, okay, and I mean basically stripping to the bone of some of our suppliers, okay, and cost that they cannot survive to be able to be in the market to supply us. Remember, our key objective, okay, is to increase competition in the market so that we can get, okay, value, okay, and leverage. Now, if we kill some of our suppliers, okay, by probably being adversarial, don't giving them a fair return on their effort, then they will exit the market and we'll be left with only few suppliers. And therefore, okay, it will become what? A suppliers market. And so the relationship and the dynamism within the market will change. Remember from the Porter's 5 forces. And so it is very important that we should be, making sure that our suppliers are also able to survive in the market. Now, obviously, it's not it shouldn't be a cozy relationship. We should be challenging them on some of the costs and other things through negotiation and other things. But we should try in meeting the need and identify the needs that we have in our mind, what is the value we want to get out of it. Then when we come to that, okay, we then also probably have to look at, okay, some of the key aspects. Okay, where are we going to get the things from? Now, the definition of sourcing is the process of identifying, selecting, and developing supplies. So again, you remember what I was saying, that development of suppliers is ongoing. So it's from the identification of those suppliers, when we identify and validate those suppliers to come into our supply base, is part of developing them. We are conditioning them that these are the expectation and the value we expect from our suppliers. So when we do look at our 10 C's as part of the evaluation tool, to see whether the people have got the competency, the capabilities, okay, and the commitment to us, it is all part of shaping them, okay, to be able to meet our needs. And it is also part of the beginning of developing the relationship. So where do we get our supplies from? Now, we may have in our own database registered suppliers. We may have existing suppliers who we are working with, okay, or we may get it from trade sources or websites and other things. But also probably some time, probably putting information in the market, okay, that we may have a need at some stage, okay. And so if you think you are the right company or so to meet our needs, let us know your details, okay, and people will express an interest. That expression will give us a new database of people, some of the people we may not even know about, okay, and will come out of the woodwork and then form part of that. And before, we can probably do some of our pre-qualifications and then make sure that we validate them before they come into our supply base. Then the other aspect, let me minimize this. Okay, so we need to make sure that, again, I mean, what are the people we have brought into our supply base, okay, or who have expressed interest, okay, whether they are suitable, acceptable, and capable of fulfilling that. So again, I said that when we were talking, I was talking about the sourcing, about what are the tools we use to make sure that they are the right type of suppliers which we could be able to work with. Okay, so some of the criteria, apart from the tenses, or some of them are included in the tenses, is about their finance. Are they sound, financially sound? Okay, have they got the necessary production capacity and facilities to meet the volume of purchases we are looking for? Have they got the right type of staff and skills and depth in management to be able to work with us? What is the quality like? Have they got a, quality control system? In terms of probably tools like strategic processing control, SPC, to make sure that they are able to meet to the exact requirement and the specification we required. What is the performance like? Have you got any track record of how these people are performing the way? Okay, or is it a new supplier? Okay, what do we know about them? What people are saying about them in the industry? Because in our industry, we talk, we may know buyers from other things, and the people will say, well, we work for this company. So we can take references and see how their performance, okay. And then what are their behavior around meeting some of the key requirements of the law in terms of environmental and ethical consideration, okay, which we talk about. Are they complying with health and safety, modern slavery, all those areas? And probably, again, what is sort of technology are they using? Is this something which is compatible with our own technology to be able, okay, to link up to electronic data interchange to communicate more on the platform, and for them to give access to them when probably they have been validated to access onto our platform to respond in a timely way to our needs? Okay, what is the organization structure? Okay, is it a tall, bureaucratic organization structure, or a flatter, more responsive, okay, organization structure, okay, to meet our needs as and when they arise? Then we look at probably the aspect of asking for the coming to procurement procedure. We can request for quotation or do single source procurement. We can probably apply either through competitive, okay, or tender processes. You can have the two-stage, okay, the pre-qualification, and then probably the qualification, and probably looking at the either we are going to source locally, or we are going to look at international sourcing again, or request for proposal for consultancy services. Key point is that the criteria for evaluation needs to be something which we have already defined in our contract document and our specification, and also probably in our tender document, okay, especially for public sector bodies, okay, because if probably it is not aligned, and then the supplier could challenge us, okay, that we are being unfair, and probably the whole thing has been skewed to meet a particular supply requirement and supplier, okay, and it is not, very good, because for public sector and everywhere, we need transparency and fairness, equality of treatment of our suppliers. And so we need to ensure that our evaluation criteria is probably already people are aware about it, and that is applied. Lower cost, is it quality and cost base, or margin of preference and other? Especially now when we are talking about climate change, we could, as procurement people, drive these areas of sustainability in our specification, also in our work criteria. Okay, now what is the environmental things you are doing, okay, or what are the environmental things you are going to include in the process of developing this service, or probably in meeting the needs we require. Again, negotiation where appropriate, okay, especially in those high, okay, and again, probably in the high core areas, probably tender process may not be appropriate way to engage with those type of suppliers. We need more direct negotiation. Okay, we need to know preparation, pre-preparation, knowing a little bit, putting ourselves in the shoes of the supplier. Okay, to get, to know them more. Okay, what are the cost drivers within that organization? Okay, so we need to do some cost analysis to know the variable costs, okay, and probably possible fixed costs. We need to be able to work out roughly before going to what are basically the key variables we can trade with. Okay, things which are not probably important to it, but we know it may be important to the supplier, and use it as part of our negotiation tactics, okay, to get the best, okay, from that negotiation. We need also probably, again, knowing the supplier, we need to see how we could be able to work, especially when we are looking for those strategic suppliers and areas where probably there's a high risk, probably where there could be a win-win or perceived win, okay, for both parties, so that we're all happy, okay, to be able to establish a contract. Okay, now that contract also probably have to bear some of the things which we have negotiated about, so that at least, okay, it is key that we are able to achieve the outcome we want. Modern practice also say that we know that from negotiation we'll be implementing that contract. So it is important sometimes to have the contract managers sitting in the negotiation so that they know most of the things we have negotiated about. Okay. Now, the other things we need to look at, and I said, I think probably I've already alluded to it, things which we may need, okay, to have competitive bidding, okay, items or service, okay, of significant value, okay, we can tender for, okay, there's a clear specification, and so competitive bid can be evaluated side by side. We can make comparison, likes for like, apples with apples, and then also we can look at the competition which exists, okay, the good quality of suppliers, and where there's enough time for the whole process from probably the tender and then probably to evaluation and to the award. In some cases, competitive bidding, as I said, may not be, the best way to do it. Okay, and these, please, I want you to note, are important, and they can come in the examination question, any of the objective response questions. Okay, where there's not possible, it's not possible to probably obtain the fair prices, or where the specification is likely to change, and when prices is not the main drivers, okay, for basically acquiring that need. Okay, and when we set up costs and time, could be prohibited. Okay, so we need to know the difference, how we can build relationship, okay, and where probably we cannot use competitive way to build that relationship. Okay, especially with the high value, high risk, or areas where probably are novel and new to us, and we need to have people who are going to work with us to achieve that needs. Then we come to the aspect where we look at the contractual and supply and management aspect. And there we come into contract communication, contract administration, and basically managing the performance. So this is exactly the area I was talking about, where the people involved in some of the negotiation, including the contract managers, may know exactly what are the key requirements, the KPIs which we have set, okay, in the negotiation, and which form part of the contract, so they can hit the ground running. Now, in some cases where probably you have the bureaucratic things, it goes from one department before it goes, and then probably the contract managers have to take time to learn about what was discussed and all these things. Now, again, we want to be efficient. Remember, we want to do things and we want to get it right the first time. Okay, so we need to basically empower those people to know so that they can hit the ground running. Contract management is also opportunity for us to develop our relationship further, because we'll be talking to them, okay, regularly, either through review meetings and other aspects. And that is also the increasing aspect we were talking about, developing the rapport and the trust. Okay, you know what are their challenges and what are our challenges, and probably we try to work together to iron out all those difficulties. Okay, and then finally, we need to know when the contract will be renewed, whether we are going to continue, extend the contract, or we are coming to the end and termination of the contract. Again, issues around inspection and acceptance also come. In some cases, especially around commodities and other things, you may probably have to get some inspection. You can probably get a third party like SGS or so to go, especially when I'm buying internationally and I don't know the supplier. I could probably appoint an inspection company to go and make sure that the requirements, okay, are all being met by the supplier. Okay, so again, we need to be thinking about that, okay, as part of probably our management of the whole policy and procedure. Inventory management and control, again, our challenge always have been about planning and forecasting. I'm sure probably you have heard about the forester effect, okay, around definition and probably trying to meet, okay, the demands, okay, both dependent and independent demand. We need to be able to have some tool to be able to help so that we don't have these forester effects, okay, where we are, we're inflating what we need and it is probably across the whole supply chain. We need to think about the storage and security, especially when we were talking about probably high value, high risk area, especially when we are keeping them in stock. We need to have a different type of stock control system where probably we are monitoring them regularly and making sure that we are not losing some of these items because they are very expensive. Okay, again, think about your stock system. Think about things which can go, if over time, probably we have obsolescence, okay, and it's not probably needed, it's a waste, okay. So we need to look at how we can do that. What are the material handling requirements, okay? What are the things we need? We need a mechanical handling system, or where do we need to store, perishable or non-perishable items? We need to understand all those things and allocate responsibility, look at probably what, logistic and distribution and probably the disposal of probably the asset or probably the waste from some of the activities. These are all considerations we need to think about as part of the managing the contract and the supply management and relationship as well. So now, in the beginning, we talk about the three stakeholders. We have internal, connected, and external. But how do we segment and manage, okay, and understand these stakeholders? And this is a tool you'll be coming across from Mandolin, okay, which helps us probably to do that. So we can assess, okay, our stakeholders from the point of view of whether they have an interest or power. Okay, so minimum interest, okay, and minimum power, probably we don't need to, probably we need to have a way of engaging with them to let them know what is happening, but not in that detail. Okay, and then those people which are got low interest but power, we need to keep them probably honestly informed. Okay, keep them satisfied, sorry. Okay, because they have that power and they can derail what we are doing. So then they will need probably a more detailed information about probably what we intend to do, how is it going to impact or benefit the organization. And then we have the keep informed, high interest, but probably low power. But honestly, they are also very important. We need to give them some sorts of information which will be able to keep their interest still within what the organization is doing. Okay, because we don't want, and also them, coming and aggregating and probably cause troubles for our organization. So we need to keep them close and by and probably keep them warm up okay, to what we are doing. And then our key player, they will need to work with them. They could include some of our key connected, okay, stakeholders, okay, and shareholders, owners, senior management, and everything. But whatever we are going to do in terms of building relationship, in terms of probably appointing a single source supplier and all those things, we need top management involvement, decisions on that. And so if we don't keep them close and let what they can derail, okay, or approve some of the things we want to do. So stakeholder management is a very important tool, and you'll be using it throughout your procurement and studies up to the professional level. So when you learn it now, it will be quite useful for you. Now, because some of these things we are doing is involving change. Change to be able to get the best value. Change to come up with new improved ways of doing things. Change in terms of probably outsourcing non-core items. Okay, change in trying to work closer with some of the suppliers in a way. Now, all these causes conflict. And so some of these change, okay, there will be resistance to that change. And Kubler-Ross change curve is a very important tool to know, because normally when it comes to probably you dropping the supplier or something like that, there will be quite a shock to them, okay? But we have been working with you all the time and things are working fine. Why do we need to do that? Okay, so we need to ensure that, okay, the event, as much as it be a surprise, okay, it is in we explain things to these people to basically try and help, okay, so that they don't find it as a surprise, that they know it is coming and probably they can probably bear with us and probably, so that they don't have any spoiling behavior, okay, in which will probably impact that change. Some people will get into a sort of disbelief, okay, and looking for evidence. Again, there'll be frustration which will come out of all that, okay, that things are going to be different because they are used to the status quo. They don't want to change. They don't want to, go and work for another company to pay a transfer of undertaking, okay, of their work to a third party, okay, and so there will be frustration there, and then they will get into this depressive mood, okay, where probably they are not sleeping well and they lack energy, so their productivity and everything will go, and then they trying to emerge and say, okay, fine, let's try and engage, okay, and find out about this new situation, and then later they will probably decide that probably maybe it's not as about, there may be some benefit, okay, of doing this, okay, and then they will start to build a positive, okay, a vibe about the change, and then they become integrated and become probably part of the change. So please remember all these things you are doing, okay, in building relationship. There will come to a time where probably there will be termination, okay, of some of the relationship you have, and these will bring up some of the challenges and conflict and other things, which, okay, may put people into that aspect of change. Good. So the other aspect, okay, where we have, especially when we are trying to effect change, we have those who will be, okay, for us. Okay, they will be for the change. So we call them the driving forces. And then we have the restraining forces who are against. And this four fields by Lowen, okay, is another way to illustrate, okay, how things affecting change within the organization could probably could be a tug of war, basically, from those people who want the change to happen because they can see the benefit, and those who don't want to because they see that it is going to have impact on them. And so what you can see, the forces, okay, is being donated by the arrow. So the thickness, and then they show a very important force. So in this thing, it's talking about probably a restraining forces against probably a new change, okay? And the other side, the drivers for the change, say, look, it's not our doing, it is by law, we need to implement that legislation, okay? Because if not, our license to operate will be withdrawn. And so we need to understand that. And so we need to be able to do this type of analysis, okay, to show, okay, where the risk is going to be, where the change is going to be, those who are for and those who will be against, and try to see how we work with them probably to overcome that change. I talk about conflict, and you have the Thomas Klinsmann conflict resolution metrics. And there too, we are looking at what is the importance of the item you are buying, or the importance or concern for people. That's the two key things you are. So do we have to be cooperative, or do we have to be assertive? That would determine basically determined by what you want to get out of that relationship. Are we concerned to continue, okay, to have some relationship with this supplier going forward? There's a problem. So we need to find solution which will be something which will be acceptable for both parties, so that we can continue with that relationship if it is very important to us. However, if it is not, then maybe we may be able to use our assertive, competitive, okay, approach to try, okay, to resolve things. Now, it may be that sometime, after some time, this relationship will fall apart. But we need to be able to determine, okay, do we want to, probably in terms of us, I mean, it's not that important to us, so we just want to avoid that conflict altogether. Or do we need to be accommodating, where probably we may assess some part of the supplier requirement or other things like that, okay, so that they probably have a win there, and probably will probably have a win somehow. Or do we want to compromise, where probably we could be assertive at the same time, trying to be very cooperative, okay, to compromise on the way forward. But the key areas we want to be with our suppliers, okay, especially our key suppliers, is to be in the collaborating zone, where there's a high assertion and high cooperation. Okay, remember the core destiny, the partnership area. Okay, we cannot afford, okay, because the concern for the item and the concern of the people or the supplier is very important to us. So we need to find ways to resolve things and to collaborate on that. Now, so as we go along as a procurement team, our department will be recruiting people and all the time. And this is about probably a team formation. Every situation you get into, there will be new people coming on board, okay? And in doing so, okay, the people will try to find out probably about each other, okay, as part of the group work. What are the capabilities of this person? What can they bring to the table and all that? Now, that aspect is called the forming stage from the Tuckman, okay, group development theory. Again, I will stress that these will come somehow. You'll see some of these questions in your objective response. So learn the 5 points involved in the group development side, okay? The storming session, okay, occurs because everybody is trying to assert themselves. I mean, those people who probably have watched television, Apprentice, which is probably done in the UK, okay, if it is being sold into Africa or wherever you are, the Apprentice, I mean, offer, I mean, that aspect of the storming situation where people have been brought in. Alan Sugar is saying that I want to have a partner to work with me. I'm prepared to put $250,000 into their development. And you can see how people come and form and probably try to justify position, okay, to, I mean, basically to be the leader, okay, and all those. So that storming session is very important to know those people who emerge, okay, who are going to be the new leaders, or people who come with ideas or the collective skills, okay, which are needed to probably run a procurement function. And then after that, there's a settlement, okay, agreement is reached about how the work is to be done, what is the individual requirement and the output which is expected. And then you see the performance stage where everybody work together as a team. They work together as a team. Because we know that, the people working as a team will be able to achieve more, than people working individually. The increased productivity and synergy of knowledge and skills is going to give what we call the individual, when you add it together, the output becomes better than the sum of the parts, which we call synergy. And then you come into the state that this team have achieved what they want, and they are able to fulfill what they want. And if there's no ingestion of new challenge, then you see that they will merge and probably mourn and adjourn, mourn or adjourn, which means the whole thing will be disbanded or something like that, or probably we'll send them to do other project, move them to other projects to do. So top-man group formation is very, very important, and you'll be seeing it in your management paper in the 5M1, and probably again when you come to looking at your strategy area too, you'll be seeing this. First, as I said, that in some aspect we have working with, so there'll be a way to reduce and to impact the price fluctuation. But what we need to do is to monitor the elements in the market, across the whole network of the supplies. We could also probably, to avoid that price increases, again, also either we buy it bulk and then we keep in stock, or we can do some techniques of forward buying, where we can probably, commit to some buying some commodities, in the future market, working with suppliers to mitigate increases from the supply chain as a whole. So again, trying to reduce waste, around the value chain, is going to probably help us to manage some of the price escalation which may come, or in cases, as I said, reduce the waste and reduce costs and prepare strategy to do with increases. What are we going to do, what if inflation goes up by so much? What impact is it going to have on that bottom line? And what are we going to do about it? So knowing all this will help you to plan your strategies of how, probably whether we should go and source from low-cost country or economies to be able to bring the price down, will be part of the strategy we may need to think about. So KPIs for measuring buyer and supply relationship, again, is all the things we learned from the beginning. The drivers for relationship is the key. That's what you have to evaluate in terms of, have we developed trust over the years with this? What is the power dynamism within the two parties? Is it on sort of adversarial more than what we were expecting? Are we having, a high quality of information exchange or not? What is the communication like? Have they probably communicating regularly, or we are doing the chasing all the time? And they are not prepared to come up with new ideas, or if they do, they are not sharing with us. What's the commitment like? What sort of collaboration? These are all the tactile signs through your relationship. You can probably evaluate and see whether they are making that. So those key elements of the drivers are also your KPIs you can use to measure, both from the buyer side or from the supply side as well. Again, probably in part of the policy and procedures around procurement, there are certain key areas we need to look at, especially the legal consideration. What are, the penalties, or sanctions if people do not do what we want? Again, especially when we are switching supply, what are the transitional costs involved? And what are the transitional arrangements we have to have so that it doesn't disrupt our supply activity, and our production and other things? We need to think about confidentiality, We need to look at the confidentiality clauses. We need to look at intellectual property requirement in terms of probably getting people to sign non-disclosure contract and agreement so that they don't disclose things which are both confidential but also probably very sensitive, okay, about that. We need to think about patents to protect us and copyright, trade secret, trademarks, security, and all those things we need to probably be thinking about that. And again, the employees' right. Okay, in most countries, the rules, okay, of engagement, okay, of employees are statute law. You cannot negotiate in some of them. And so you need to make sure that you are treating your staff properly, okay, and respecting their rights on that. So why do contracts come to an end? Now, basically, it will come to an end because the contract itself has run its course. Or the contract has been re-tendered and probably the existing supplier didn't win. Or we probably decided that probably we got too many people in our supply base, so we want to do a supply rationalization, reducing the supply base. Please watch that word, supply-based rationalization, okay, to do that. Okay, so that we are working with only the most efficient and people who we think are going to give us that value added. So the supply suddenly increases pricing for no justifying reasons, or the supply make a material breach or poor performance, probably they are not able to meet some of our specification or KPIs, which is then impacting on our customers. Okay, we may probably say that probably we need to withdraw our relationship there. Or supply engagement activity that could damage the buyer's reputation, probably by association. We saw in the UK a company called Beho, which have been working with some suppliers in Leicester. And they have been paying their staff in that company below the minimum wage. And this came to light. Now, and that is exploitation. That is against the UN Compact program, okay, of equal opportunity, equal pay, and fairness. Okay, and where government has stipulated what should be the minimum wage, a company which is doing that, in fact, does have impact. And Boho have to withdraw its relationship with these suppliers because they were mentioning in the patients and dispatches that they were buying from these companies. Okay, and again, the supply become insolvent. Okay, or there's a merger, okay, of that organization with another company, either through acquisition or probably whatever means. So that is how things will come to an end. But in itself, you need to have a process. Okay, you don't just say, oh, sorry, we need to have a process. Supply performance issues, which therefore we come to contract management and see whether we can help with the supplier, okay, to improve on their performance. If they continue to fail, then we need to basically get approval, okay, from senior management to terminate, and then develop how we are going to exit from that contract, okay, through exit strategy, and then review the market, qualify new suppliers, and get a written notice of termination, and then probably we manage the exit, okay, and onboard the new suppliers. And this is, again, a tricky part of some of the work we have to do because we need to manage the transitional arrangement, okay? Now, and so, again, we need to probably look at what contractual terms we can put into our contract to say that if probably should, in case you lose the tender, and you may be working as a consultant for a period of 3 months or something like that, if we think deemed necessary to help to onboard the other people. Okay, so something for you to think about. Okay, so let's move on. We've got about 45 minutes. Okay, so let's move on and do the last learning outcome, and then probably if time save, we can look at some questions, please. So the next one is about, again, understanding the concept of partnering. I think it has 3 elements. analyze the concept of partnering and where it is suitable approach, appraise the process of partnership implementation, and identify the reason why partnership fails. Okay, even partnership fails. So we need to probably understand, okay, how, okay, we develop partnership, okay, in that way. So basically from this slide, is talking about 3 ways or 3 types of partnership which we can have. Now, first one is recognizing each other as partners and coordinate activities that and planning on limited basis. So you do planning on limited basis. The partnership is short-term focus and involve only one function within each organization. So it's not a whole true partnership with the whole organization, okay, the supply organization, but just a small part of our functions, okay? The partnership of the type are less time intensive to develop. Example, there is a buyer and supplier set up a partnership to improve an aspect of their relationship, such as a delivery over the next year. The procurement is involved with the buyer side, okay, and the supply operations from the other side. So these are the procurement buying side who are buying and the operational side from the supply side. So it's of limited, okay, and it is specific to that type of issue which has arisen from a previous contract, okay, as ongoing problem. The second type of partnership is concerned, okay, where the company progress beyond the coordination of activities to integration. The partnership is a long-term focus and the number of functions within both companies are involved. A number of functions are involved. The buyer supplier have decided to invest in the same ordering and delivering system to improve integration. So it could be that probably we want to have something, a platform where probably we don't have to use paper, chasing paper or that thing, but we can probably use the platform, okay, through technology to be able to see what is needed and probably approve on the line, and then probably, well, okay, Dory, we are able to meet the needs. The scope of the partnership we span several years, okay, from the buyer side, operational and stores are involved, and from the supply side, sales operations are involved. So there's a cross-organization team have been developed to manage the progress of these implementation of that delivery system. And the last part of the partnership type is company share a significant level of operational integration. A significant level of operational integration. The buyer and the supplier view each other as an extension of each other firm to the end date is set for the partnership. So this externalization of your own organization to include the supplier organization. The buyer and the suppliers have an additional integration system and have developed just in time, okay, delivery system, stock holding, and the supplier is viewed and treated as a key partner and is involved in product development. So we are coming up with a new product, they will have the input, I mean, what we call early supplier involvement there to make sure that whatever we are coming out, okay, is going to be the best. And then we have the supply support, okay, to get the wherever raw materials or components or things to go into that production, or if it is a service, to make sure that probably it is able to meet exactly what our customers desire. So again, if I'm an examiner, I will ask questions around, okay, this type, okay. The 3 types of, one is just basically recognition that we are going to do things together, where, and then the second one where we go beyond just the coordination of activity, but into integration. And then the third part is where there's significant level of operational integration. Okay, it's a just objective response. So you need to know that, because examiner can put the question there and then put and say, which type of partnership is that? You need to be able to identify that. So drivers for partnership working Again, generating synergies. Remember, the outcome is greater than the sum of the parts. Okay, that will reduce costs and increase profitability. Also, the ability to develop product more quickly, because again, you have the early supply involvement, and probably they may come up with some newer material or something or new innovation which could help us. Okay, and so our time to market, we can probably reduce that time to market. Okay, and from what our competitors are doing, what we call first mover advantage. If we're able to get things to the market before our competitors, okay, our product will be recognized, okay, more quickly. Again, enable both parties to survive in the face of changing or unstable market. So you view the market, you look at the challenge, and you come up with strategies on how you are going to work together to, again, beat the competition so that you get a good market share. Identifying waste, such as duplicated activity, bottlenecks, delays. Okay, again, your 7 waste teamwood also come into consideration here. Enable access to particular market. A partnership also, I think Sarah was talking about partnership and Harley Reed being partner with CIPS, because we are in certain countries where probably CIPS are not, okay, and so our partnership is basically around West Africa and Co, because we have significant footprint around that area, and so we are helping CIPS probably to develop that capability and competence for procurement people around that through qualification, corporate award, and probably transformations consultancy using some of the CIPS transformation tools. So that gives access to CIPS in those markets. It also brings revenue share and other things which are very important. But again, you have to think about why is Harley Reed partners? It didn't start on. We have been working with CIPS for quite a long time, so they know our capabilities and other things around that. Then that's what you should be looking at. What is going to drive you to work with that person, that company? What have they got? What are they going to bring to the table? What is the added value you are going to get from that relationship? Is it going to give you a new market area, a new product development, or new access to other competencies which you may not have? Where buyers need to source highly complex products and services and increase the security of supply. Remember the key objective: continuity of supply and security of supply. That is what is going, because you'll be prioritized, okay, as the main supplier or some of the key buyers. Okay? So the supplier will take you when in terms of need and scarcity, you come on the top of the list. So items for partnership sourcing. Already I mentioned probably about the high risk and a high value area, okay, of your price check. Okay. Now, when you look at that, we are talking about technically complicated, okay, area of supplies, or probably new supplies completely, which we haven't done before. Probably we don't know. We know exactly where what we're expecting in terms of outcome, but we don't know how to probably to get there, and that will mean that we have to work, okay, with our partners to come up with that. Or probably in an area where there's a fast changing technology. Okay, technology is shifting quickly. Now, if you look at basically what is happening now, okay, with the COVID in the retail industry in the UK, it has been disseminated basically because people are buying online and they are not going to the shops and other things anymore. Look, even what we are doing now, you see, it's a complete change. We do a lot of online, okay, training for a long time, okay, because we have people, customers or students around the world who buy our product. But the point is that it has intensified. Now doing most of the things on that because of the aspect that we can't do face-to-face meeting. So the new paradigm of where we will be that we'll be depending more on technology, and it also comes with its challenges. But we need partners who is going to help us to develop okay, and probably to retain our market share or increase our market share. Okay. Again, restricted market, where we cannot go, but we know by that partnership, we may be able to exploit that opportunity. Okay, again, you see when you look at multinationals and all that, that's how they develop, because they have partners in those countries, other sourcing or probably doing some part of the manufacturing process, okay, for them. So I think for partnership sourcing has to be things around the high spend and the high risk area, okay, of your criteria. Again, Bobby Mandlin and the power there, basically saying that all these things you cannot do without the involvement of your stakeholders. You need to engage with them, know what is their needs and their power, okay, and their interest, or they will, basically derail whatever things you have in mind to do. Now, we have here, how do you sell that partnership working, okay, to your key stakeholders, okay, senior management? It's very, very important. And here, CIPS have adopted the quarter, okay, 8 steps of change model. And what basically it is that for any leader, okay, who have to effect change, okay, you need probably to have a buy-in, okay, of their people. You have to have followers, okay. You need to have followers. You need to basically, create some sort of agency where the need has to change, okay. So you can't dilly-dally about that. You need to be quite clear why the change is necessary and the agency about that. But by saying that and articulating that, you need to form a guiding coalition. You need to have key people, those for and those probably against, and probably try and build champions who are going to support that change. Okay, and then you form your strategy and the vision and the initiative. Okay, basically you need to do that and then enlist your army of volunteers who will go out, okay, within the organization, talking to those people who are sitting on the fence, those people who are against and all that, to try and convince them. Because in that influence, what you know that, you may like the change, but you don't like the person who is probably managing the change. But somebody, I know the person, I know that this person doesn't want the change, but and I know a friend who probably like the change. Okay, probably, why don't you talk to Miss So-and-so and trying to express probably the benefit of that change to them and trying to win them over to cross the line to be there. They are the army of volunteers you have to enlist. Enable action of removing barriers. Change and some of your strategies should not be cast in stone. Where there's a need, remember your conflict resolution tools, okay, where you need to give a little bit, okay, to be able to gain a major part, yes, you may have to do that, to remove those barriers and the resistance to that change. And you need to create short-term wins, in terms of visualization, probably having a poster or something like that, or probably even your intranet saying what have been achieved, okay, so far, even in the initial stages of that change, is going to galvanize and give people motivation, basically, to try and be part of the change. But when you have achieved the change, you need to sustain it. Not that you go about 5 steps forward and you come back about 3 steps. It's not. In that change, need to be embedded in the culture, okay, of the organization. It needs to be embedded that everybody is going to go by the new change, not the status quo. There's a new order which have been created. Okay, and that is important that we abide by that, okay, and ensure that we're able to sustain and accelerate that change. And once it's got it going, then we know that we have created a new change. Okay, it becomes second nature. It is embedded. Okay, we see evidence, in people implementing and taking some of the new tools and the ideas about working with these suppliers, okay, and then we know we are got there. Okay. So again, what if I'm an examiner, I could ask any questions around any of these steps. So what step you need to probably have more people, okay, who are not part of the strategic team, okay, to be involved in that change. That would be step 4. Enlist volunteers and army. Okay, I mean, or you can ask questions around stage 7. Okay, in stage 7, what is supposed to happen there? You need to sustain an acceleration of the change. So if I were you, in your revision, you go through and look at these 8 steps, okay, and just have them on your fingertips, okay, because if any question comes, then you know exactly what to do. So what are the things which could probably constrain and probably affect relationship development? I mean, again, remember stakeholders, connected stakeholders. I mean, and some of your internal stakeholders are part of it. Lack of support from senior managers is a key. Doing things where probably your managers, senior managers are not happy with, okay, may probably affect. Okay, all right. Conflict of interest between the two parties. So what we all desire is not aligned. Probably the suppliers probably will feel that probably we haven't treated them well, or probably in terms of the dividing of the cake, we are taking more than them. Okay, that could cause a problem and conflict. Probably that approach in terms of adversarial on the part of both supplier or them could also affect the whole relationship as well. The imbalance of power of the parties, probably also linked with the conflict side, okay, can also cause a constraint to development of the relationship. Lack of trust. Remember, trust is the driver, especially in the collaborative relationship. So when there's lack of trust or people lose trust, okay, in what they thought was the relationship they were forming, okay, then everything falls apart. Sometimes in partnership, the people, the driving force of that partner, when they be a key personnel who probably wholeheartedly champion the change and the relationship. If the person leaves, then you feel that probably the focus is lost, okay, and that commitment from the company may not be no more, okay, and that could also probably undermine that relationship. Communication breakdown, dissatisfaction, conflict, and lack of trust, incompatibility of culture, values, processes, and procedures in system and technology. Again, some of these are challenging areas. I told you about Boho, okay, company, okay, where probably they have a very good supplier of their clothes and all that, which goes into their business. However, the fact that probably the share value, okay, have been undermined in terms of their lack of compliance to the law, basically affect, okay, that relationship. Their drive probably to make more profit, okay, and not looking after the interests of their employees, undermine that relationship. And so basically, and they are licensed to operate and probably to have relationship, long-term relationship was withdrawn by the company because they don't want to be associated with such an organization. So commercial practice and all those things, probably that relationship which we thought, we thought there would be some added value, and but now when we have re-evaluated the whole proceed things, we realize that probably it's not relevant anymore. Things are not okay as we thought it's going to be. But we come to the end of that relationship. Okay. And so we decided that we need to do that. So I will probably leave that because some of the things I've said probably comes there. So since I've got this this communication tool, okay, which you can probably, if you go at, I'm sure probably it is in your book, okay, already. Okay, but what basically what he's saying is that, okay, whoever is receiving the information need to be able to probably able to interpret what exactly you are trying to give them. Okay, they need to understand clearly, okay, what do you want me to communicate with? I mean, who are the different stakeholders and who need different strategy or for communicating with those different stakeholders? Okay, and that will mean that we may have to review, okay, and keep it simple. We need to keep our communication simple and clear and concise. Okay, I mean, we don't need to put in things which are irrelevant. Okay, we should go straight to the point. Okay, so that it makes it easier for them to understand. But then over time, we need to find the root. Okay, what is the best way? What is the best way to get the message across? Okay, to the audience. What type of audience are we talking about? How are we going to, is it going to be intranet, emails, meetings, focus group, telephone call? All those things are important that we need to look at. And then we need to evaluate, okay, the reaction from all these things, okay, the engagement. What is the outcome? How did they like it or they were not happy with it? Okay, what are they telling us? What is the best way to get the response we want? You know, in some cases, we do satisfaction surveys and other things, and probably people don't respond. That is not good. So we need to find another way of reaching and probably engaging with those suppliers, probably to give us what basically, or our stakeholders basically, to know what exactly they need, so that we can probably have the right response, okay, to meet their needs. So that we should probably ask for request for feedback. I mean, what I'm doing now, okay, I would like to know, okay, your feedback. As in, have I been able to meet some of your challenges, okay, towards this paper? Okay, I need to have that. Because my objective, and probably in the partnership with CIPS, is to get you to pass. That's our objective. That's why I'm sacrificing the time to be with you today. So I need to have that. But so also is your customers, your internal customers, your external customers. They need to give you a feedback to see how they perceive the service you are giving them, the relationship, whether it is strong or not. Okay, and basically to see exactly what corrective actions you need to take to bring, I mean, a good conclusion, okay, to make sure that you are communicating better. So basically, it's a closed loop. It's like a cycle. You can see the time to gauge and probably review the route you should be thinking of, and the response and the result you get, and how you are able to see whether you are meeting the needs of your customers. Now we'll conclude now looking at the type of cultures which we see in terms of leadership style or probably engagement in supply relationship. Now, handy for cultural types and place. If you learn it now, you will see it in your model 5M1 as well when you do your management. So if you are not learning for nothing, this is going to give you the foundation, but then you can see, okay, especially the type of management style probably we can look at. But what you're looking at now, there are 4 types of cultures. You look at the power cultures, which is basically power is centered on a figure. Okay, I mean, like me, okay, because I started Harley Reed, and I'm very passionate about procurement and CIPS, I make sure that every country we go, okay, in our expansion of our services, CIPS form part of the integral part of the services we get. In fact, some of the managers or directors who are come from different area of expertise, I get them to follow the course. Probably the lady in South Africa is an accountant, okay, and she has to do CIPS. My son, who is an accountant and engineer, also to be part of it. Yes, I have to say, look, if you want to strive in this company and grow the organization, CIPS should be part of your delivery, like in terms of knowledge, but also in terms of the consultancy advisory things you do. Now, am I autocratic? Maybe yes, in that aspect of trying to realize, okay, my objective, okay, and the vision for the organization. But I have the interest of the organization at that. So controlling through direct personal communication, little formulation, and rules and procedures, I think I'm a good boss. I don't always, okay, dictate things, but I think where I feel that it is important, I express my views. The role culture, classic, rational organization, more bureaucratic, formalized interpersonal, and authority-based imposition, conformative rules. There's no leverage for flexibility or probably giving people that sort of aspect to basically do things. It is more directive. Okay, it could fall between autocratic or paternalistic. Probably we've seen some of the old companies, okay, probably from the Quakers company forming Cadbury's and other things. They are very paternalistic, okay, with their suppliers and their workers and other things like that. Again, it is a role culture. The task culture is only interested in the output and the result. It is a team-based, horizontal focus. Again, valuing expertise and communication and collaboration. Again, it can be, depending upon how it consume, either paternalistic or democratic. And then the person culture, serve the interests of the individual, the management function, administrative support, rather, and the more democratic. So these cultural types and the leadership style are very important, again, in the relationship. So you know that probably if you are dealing with Harley Reed and it is about probably procurement or something, there are certain things which, okay, you will find that it goes to the root of what they do. It is part of our probably what I call a unique selling point. Okay, but we have driven that aspect through development of our staff, okay, to be able to recognize that these products or services we offer is vital to our organization and to our customers as well. And so we are looking to build more partnership with many companies, okay, around Africa and around the world. So that is the end of my teaching. We got about 15 minutes. So question and answers, please. Can you come up with any questions you want? We got 15 minutes to use profitably. And as I said, my objective here is to give you all the things you need to be able to pass your paper. CIPS have organized this for you. And I think don't keep quiet. Ask the question, please. Thank you.
Hi, Mr. Tom.
Yeah.
We had Rialebo requesting.
Yeah.
Can you please talk about cost modeling and ESI?
Early supplier involvement. Okay.
Yes.
And then what else for the question?
No, she's just saying that, can you please talk about it?
Okay, fine. Early supplier involvement. Okay.
Yes.
Well, I mean, the point is that, you know, if you value your suppliers, okay, that they are people who come, they are not your enemies, okay, but they are assets, then early supplier involvement, especially for people you are validated and probably performing probably at a strategic suppliers, is quite meaningful, okay, because what it does is that they come up with their eclectic skills. Okay, they are dealing with other suppliers. They may have some ideas of new ways of doing things. So innovation and other things, which they can bring on board. In one consultancy we did for a manufacturing company in South Africa, it was quite useful because basically, the suppliers knew, okay, the new product in the market, but because the specification, okay, have been there and that's what the company want to use, they were not able, okay, to express, okay, that, look, have you considered to look at this substitute material or not? Our involvement was to ask that question. This material is too expensive, okay, and it weighs a lot. And especially the product, it has to be air freighted because people need it in an emergency. Can't we find a lighter material also? And so that supplier, okay, asking that question and become part of the product development was able to bring a quantum change and probably a big slice of the cost of the new product which will emerge from the new development. And the company was able to reach benefit in terms of savings and also new volume in terms of demand for that product and increase their profit and revenue and bottom line. So early supply involvement is that you are looking for people who are going to suppliers who can bring new ideas, new improvement in the way you do things. Okay, I hope I've explained it to you. Next question.
Okay, the next question is from Anonymous. Thank you so much. Can you please go back to types of partnership and explain the slide?
Okay. Yeah, I think probably it's good you asked that because I know that they do come occasionally in the exams, okay? Now, the type of partnership we are saying that, you can have a partner, okay? You can have some which are closer and probably more integrated than the other. But what he's trying to say that there are three levels, okay, or type of that. The first one is saying probably basically is based on a limited activity which you do with your suppliers. The example which I've been giving is that the buyer and the supplier set up a partnership to improve an aspect of their relationship, such as delivery over next year. So delivery have been a challenge probably for the buyer and the supplier, or probably there have been a lot of complaints from customers. And so they decided that probably let's look at it and try and find solution for that. And so that is how they developed that closer relationship specific to that need. The second one is where probably we go beyond that specific needs and coordinate activities. It becomes integrated. So here we are looking at longer term focus, not a short term. Okay, you can see from the delivery over a year, this is a longer term focus. And the number of functions which may be involved in the second type of partnership, maybe other, okay, functions within the both organizations will be involved there. And here, the example they gave is that the buyer and the supplier have decided to invest in the same ordering or delivery system to improve integration, ordering and delivery system. So here it could be that probably we buy a piece of technology, okay, which sits on top of whatever it is, and then we are able to collect data, and then they will have visibility around that to be able to iron any difficulties we have around that particular area. And the final one is talking about significant, okay, change, okay, significant level of operational integration. And here the buyer and the supplier each view each other as extension of their firm. Now, when you come up to your, advanced and then your professional, you'll be looking at a standardization of your supply chain. And that's what you mean, that your supply become extension of your company. Okay, and so you are, remember the co-destiny, when you are in together, okay, the mutual dependency and mutual benefit, that's what we are talking here. So the buyer and the supplier have additional integration system and have developed just-in-time delivery and stock holding. The supplier is viewed as extension of the partner in that way. Is it clear?
Yeah, it is.
Okay, good.
Okay, we also have Iris. Their hand is raised.
Okay. Iris, what do you want to know?
I'm sorry, I eventually then wrote my question.
Oh, okay,
But
okay.
my question was around what is the ethical way when we are running an RFP and we have, let's say, 4 proposals to reject, and what is the correct and ethical way to reject a proposal without affecting the supplier relationship? Is it ethical to say you were above pricing on 25%, or just say your commercial proposal was not competitive? Ensuring that going forward, the supplier will still submit proposals, because many times I notice that once they get rejected 1 or 2 proposals, then they tend not to respond.
Yeah, I think it's a major issue. Okay. Because not all people you have been dealing with will win your contract. Okay, but we should have a procedure in place. Now, probably the public sector, we can learn a little bit. I mean, they have a system within the EU law they call debriefing, where you have to, what you have to do, you see, remember, relationship is not just like, we are developing these suppliers, okay, to become our partners in the future. So they may not be successful with this tender, okay? So we need to give them a feedback. I know most departments feel that, oh no, it's a waste of time to write to suppliers and let them know where they fall short. But what you are trying to do is to tell them honestly, okay, and transparently that, look, you are good, but you fall short on X, Y, Z. And maybe please go and work on that, and feel free to apply again whenever we have other needs. That is being ethical with your supplier, being transparent and helping them to develop. Okay, that is the only way. There will be always a failure occasionally, but it is about how you let them know so that they can work on it and take corrective action to be able to come back and bid for another tender you may be running. Okay.
Thank you. Yeah. Very helpful.
Yeah.
Okay, we have another question from Mamuna Hing. They're saying, I would love to hear more about challenges of partnership.
Well, I think the challenges in partnership, okay, are probably some of the things we said. I mean, sometimes, like any relationship, okay, it may come to its natural end, okay, or some of the things you thought you were going to get out of the partnership, okay, is not being met anymore, okay, and so you probably say that you want to end it. But challenges could be, I mean, again, where the partner is not fulfilling the key basis of the relationship in terms of probably meeting key specifications, quality, probably trying to behave in an ethical way, not using modern slavery and child labor, respecting the employers. I mean, even fair trade, all those things which come under ethical behavior, or probably discharging, okay, waste, okay, or probably that disposal without taking consideration about the impact on that on the environment, are all things which will give rise to as a challenge. And as I said, probably the company is called Beho, okay, they are a retail company in clothing. They have a partnership with a supplier in Leicester in the UK. Now, the supplier, okay, has caused a challenge to this company because the bare requirement of the law to pay, I mean, staff working in the factory a minimum wage was not observed. They were paying them a fraction, probably about 50% of what they should be having. Now, that is not very good, okay, at all. And again, customers who are buying their product, view that as unethical exploitation. And that is not very good as a reputation for that company. And so these are some of the things which will happen as a challenge, not fulfilling the key things or the values which you thought they hold. Okay, and that could undermine the whole aspect, okay, of the relationship. Okay, especially where probably they have been supposed to be looking at material or probably come up with something which is going to bring added value, and now you're having added costs because price is escalating out of hand. It's not going to help with that relationship at all.
Okay, we also have Charmaine with hand raised.
Yeah. Charmaine.
Okay.
Yeah.
Hi, Tom.
Yeah.
I joined in a bit late. I'm not sure if this was discussed. So I'd like to take you back to the relationship spectrum. In particular, to look at closer tactical. Can you please explain it in detail? Give an example of in what kind of relationship it would be used, and yeah, basically explaining in detail closer tactical relationship.
Okay, let me go back. It's the beginning. We did it in the beginning, so I can
Yes.
see why you missed it. Yeah. Okay, let me go back to the slide. So, if you look at closer tactical, okay, what we are saying is that it still falls within an area where probably, as we said, you don't need to be having a closer relationship, okay, about that. And why do we say that? We say that you can't have that because although you may be having, okay, a competent supplier, okay, in that respect, okay, you don't need to have that, stronger relationship with them, because you could probably delegate that supplier because he's competent to manage one or two activities for you, okay, probably within the tier system, okay. But basically, you cannot justify probably to have a closer relationship with them like you have with somebody who is probably a partner or probably a strategic alliance supplier, okay. So closer tactical means, similar, okay, basically, if you look at that, it's on the pathway from the adversarial towards the co-destiny, okay. So it means that there's, some sort of relationship, but it's not as close as probably those we expect, where probably you expect a lot of trust and also communication, problem solving, okay, for that area. Are you satisfied? Those people in the tactical, closer tactical, have to be competent. So they might be area where probably they are very good at, okay, and probably you could be give them some contract where they will work with some small people to be able to satisfy your need, but still it will be a little bit like a hamster, okay, but a bit more warmer relationship, I would say, if I have to look at that.
Okay, so you use them as and when needed, so you don't have to build a partnership with them, a relationship that is binding.
No, but okay. I think probably when you come further and you look at supply chain and you do your own supply chain mapping, there could be somebody within your supply chain map, in your, probably upstream, probably, or even downstream, where probably they are a tier in that, and probably you can say, look, why don't you organize XYZ, because they are also trying to have a relationship with us. Okay, why don't you probably work and then report to a first tier supplier or something like that who you want to deal with, and they could be offering some support there.
Okay. Oh, okay. Yeah. Yes. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, we have another question. The procurement cycle presented seemed to have less stages than the one in the book. May you please clarify the difference of these two?
I think probably I mean, this is our tool we use for our training of our people. We keep it simple, but I think for the if you look in your book, there may be, and you look at other books, they may come up with it. But the process is similar, that you have to start with a definition of need, okay, and then basically making sure that there's a clear understanding of the need. Let me see whether I can get to that page. Okay, of the page. And then, I mean, building the specification, okay, making sure that the specifications, okay, are being met, okay, and then probably looking at the market and see what we have got. Is there anybody in the market, or even existing suppliers who can meet our needs? Okay, and then before we go to the market, okay, and say, okay, fine, if you do, let us know. But when people come, we need to assess them, and that's what you call the supply appraiser. And I mean, I'm sure probably you come through some of the tools there. The 10 C's are one of the favorite for CIPS in terms of the codification route. Okay, you can use, but there are other things you can use. I mean, after doing your 10 C's, if it is something which is complex and high, but I would say probably you go further and go and visit, or do a visit and see your supplier face to face and see the soul and sort in which is he brought up, and see whether they are the right people, okay, for you. But then from there you come to the way you want to procure, the procurement approaches, whether it's going to be a request for quotation, depending upon the threshold and organization internal control system. Okay, you need to be able to understand that those things which can go for probably where you have 3 quotations, and then probably make sure they are compatible and you can evaluate them because you are comparing like and like, and then probably looking at the more complex, looking at tender process, okay, to spin up some competition among your suppliers and to get the best person who can probably fulfill your need, both in cost, value, and all those things which we are putting into your 10 Cs. And then from there, you go through the analysis of your award, okay, and then you are basically you appoint a supplier to fulfill it. Now you need to know in certain conditions, especially in the public sector, there are what we call the standstill clause, that you cannot issue contract to the person until probably a certain days have elapsed, okay? Because if not, that is to give people the opportunity to challenge, okay, and your award and the process you have taken, if they feel that probably it hasn't been fair or in some way not transparent on other things. And then you come to, after the award, probably you then go into the contract monitoring and evaluation and performance stage, and then the full cycle start again. The full cycle start again. Now you'll see in some books other things, but they will all come to something similar to that. Okay.
Okay, we have another question from Anonymous. Can you please explain the concept of strategic alliance?
Okay, when I was talking about strategic alliance, I mean, basically, I said I gave you example of Starbucks, okay? As example for you to visualize. Starbucks is involved in probably retail of coffee and drinks and other things around probably the world, okay? But in trying to meet their sustainability objectives, okay, they decided that they want to come up with a new cup, okay, which is sustainable and biodegradable, which means it's not going to litter the cities or where they are based. And so they have a strategic alliance, okay, with a paper converter company and form, okay, a relationship with that, okay, and then do that. They can also probably do it also through partnership. But strategic alliance basically is about when 2 companies come together and bring their eclectic skills together, okay, to be able to ensure that they are able to bring added value, okay, which will be useful for both parties, okay. And it could be that because they have some quality or some know-how. And the other example I used was Toyota, probably going to the US. A lot of people use it as a strategic strategy tool. Okay, it doesn't know the American company and country properly, so they form strategic alliance with one of the car producing countries. In the UK, we had it with British Leyland and Honda. Okay, so that they get to know the behavior of British car drivers and what they want and all those things, and came up with some product which became jointly owned, okay, and through that. So strategic alliance is where you bring your skills to be able to expand into a market and probably come up with a new product or something which is going to bring added value to both parties. Is it clear?
I'd like to believe so. We have another question from
okay. Yeah, I think the whole thing with the strategy is to have a better outcome, because if you are working on your own, you may not be able to achieve that. But bringing the other party, they can bring some other skills, okay, or some investment or something which will probably help in achieving those outcomes. Okay, yes.
Okay, so another one from Asusi. So can you elaborate on the types of relationships we can form based on the corporate and the cultural types?
Corporate or cultural types?
Yes, corporate and the cultural types.
Well, I think probably, I mean, the point is, I mean, if you look at your, what you want to achieve, okay, if you look at Harley Reed, I mean, we are very particular about some of the value system we own, okay, trying to behave in an ethical way with all the people we deal with, okay. And so anybody who is going to work with first, okay, we will expect them to hold or probably aspire to those values. So again, when you are applying to the cultural and corporate world, I mean, the example I gave with the Bible is probably a way you can probably look at that. I mean, the cultural type of value which you are looking for, okay, is very important in the sense that, they need to hold the same value or share the same value. Because they didn't share the same value, that's why they were behaving in a way where they were not paying their staff properly. Okay, and so that such a relationship will not end properly. It's not going to something to be sustainable in the longer term. Okay, and so that alone, the culture and the corporate culture are not aligned. Okay, they are not aligned, that they are looking to satisfy the needs, okay, of their customers through their relationship with those organizations, the workers who probably help to get those products in a timely way to the market. So you may, for those areas, probably you may be looking at people around the more of the tactical transactional areas, okay, and probably probably not investing that much time to that. But if somebody wants to work with a corporate body or something like that, then you should be looking at that end where probably there's a trust. There has to be exchange of information, high quality exchange of information, where they can bring some added value to the table. Okay, joint risk assessment, joint planning, okay, mutual dependency, Kazan, and I'm saying that because they can ask questions around that, where there's continuous improvement. Okay, you are challenging each other to probably do better than what you have done now. So always trying to look at what areas you can add value. Okay, and that's the sort of relationship you want in the corporate relationship. Okay. Any more questions?
Yes, we have another question from Stella. Could I please get an explanation on the Pareto analysis? Don't quite understand how the 80-20 rule works.
Okay. Now, I think the whole idea with the Pareto analysis is become very universal management tool, which can be applied in so many situations. I mean, in a class like that, you may have that, say, about 20% of the people in the class may be asking more questions, and the 80% will be quiet. That's a Pareto analysis. Okay, they may be listening and not asking questions, but 20% will be asking questions. Now, when you apply it to procurement, now, as I said, it's a segmentation tool. Okay, it's a tool you can use in many areas. When I talk to senior management people in the NHS, probably I work and lecture for nurses and child nurses who are probably emerging to take over a ward. I tell them about probably how they can apply the Pareto analysis there. Because I mean, people in the surgical ward, you need to look at those people who probably need more attention, observing, taking their people, looking at the monitor, making sure. Now, that will represent about the 20%. These people are acute and they need more input of your management time and effort. And the rest who probably are in the recovery from surgery, probably the surgery which they have about a week or two ago, you can then probably pay less attention. You can probably do your staff deployment, okay, to work with those people. And you have probably 1-to-1 in some cases, or 1-to-2 staff working there. So when we apply it to your procurement, what we are saying is that in your total spend, if you look at your spend of your organization, okay, and dissect it around how much are you spending in the whole year, and you look at the number of suppliers you have, and look at it and calculate how much you are spending with, you find that 20% of your suppliers, okay, may roughly equate to about 80% of your spend. So you are spending more money with only 20% of your suppliers. And the rest of the value, okay, the 20%, is being spent on 80% of the supplies, on your supply base. So what it says is that 20% of your suppliers are some of your key strategic suppliers. You need to pay more attention and probably look at them in your relationship spectrum. They should be working towards the partnership, strategic, and co-destiny, because they are essential and very important to you. It doesn't mean that the other 80, they are not, but because they will be fulfilling probably low value item purchases and probably support for doing some of the things you need. But your key time and effort has to be with those 20% of your supplies. It is also applied in your inventory management. In some of the papers you'll be doing when you look at whole life cycle costs and all those things, okay, asset management, you'll see it there too. Because what it is that probably you need to ensure that management time are being spent on those inventory which are of high value. Because if one of them is vanished or probably stolen from the store, it could be quite a sizable cost to the organization, a loss to the organization. And so you need to put more security and time and management and monitoring to those A item. And then the B item and the C item are those ones of low risk and low value, and probably losing some of them is not going to have big impact on your organization finances or bottom line. Is it clear now?
Okay, there's another question from Albedine. Can you please explain the relationship spectrum?
I've just done that. The relationship spectrum is showing the range, basically, the range of relationship you can have as a procurement officer. Okay, you can have some which are probably there's no relationship at all. Okay, it becomes very, very informal. Okay, basically you can use tools like reverse auction and other things, okay, to do that, to manage that, okay? And then you go across to areas where you probably use tenders because you want to achieve more, okay? Again, probably not building that closer relationship, but only for that contract. And then you go to where you are thinking of your strategic supplier who will form a mutual dependency. There's more trust, more working together to sort out issues, developing risk assessment and planning, and probably looking at where investment needs to go to be able to be competitive, okay? Working with them to be able to have a competitive stance to the market, okay? So that's basically what it is, okay? That it's a range of relationships you can have. Some will be more adversarial, some will be just one-off, some could be that probably, as we said, it's a transactional, and some will be tactical, closer, and then you go through the single source where probably you know they got a safe pair of, and sometimes probably with single source, as I said before, I mean, probably the spend is not that huge that you want to fragment it into smaller lots, okay? Because then it will lose its attraction. And so you keep it together and give it to one person you know can deliver and give you that sort of savings or probably quality you are looking for. And then you go to a source where probably non-core activities, you give it to a third party who have got that competence, okay, and quality to be able to do it at a lower cost than you can do internally, okay? Now, it comes with this problem as well, but I mean, at least that's the whole idea, that they are somebody who is going to fulfill some key specifications which were laid down, service level agreement or whatever it is, okay, so that they achieve that. And then you go to the rest where we are looking at strategic alliance and all those things. Okay, I think, yeah.
We still have seven more questions to go.
7 more questions. Oh gosh. Okay.
Yes. Another one from Anonymous. Please
Okay.
explain the difference between single and sole sourcing.
Okay. Now, I think probably single source, as I said, is one organization who probably have been given the contract to do a particular activity. Okay. There are all other competitors who could bid for it, but only one supplies. Now, when we call a sole sourcing, now sometimes people try to interpret it in a different way than what it's supposed to be. A sole source, I mean, is somebody who probably have got dominance and probably is probably a monopoly, who is the only supplier you can go to. Okay. Now, I mean, a lot of governments, bodies have used that method, okay, especially, and say that there's emergency, and so this is the only person who's available, and so we give him, is a sole supplier or something like that. I mean, it's not right, okay. Now, a lot of people, again, in the scarcity we have with the pandemic, people have also reverted to that again and say, well, he's the only person in the market who can supply it, and we're giving them a sourcing contract and other things like that. It is also used to camouflage corruption and fraud. Okay, so I think that it is an area we need to look at. We need to have the criteria for appointing sole source suppliers. We need to have a stringent control of the procedure for appointment to make that they are really the only people in the market who can probably deliver that. Okay, but we need to make sure that also people don't create artificial emergencies where then they can use it, okay, to award contract to friends and foes and other people. I hope I haven't been too political on that. Okay.
Okay. Please also explain the concept of agile.
Okay. Now, the concept of, I can't explain concept of agile without touching on the other fundamentals which make agility in the supply chain. So I'll probably start from probably looking at some of the concepts we're looking at in terms of just in time, okay, or where we take the risk and we shift the risk of probably managing our inventory for the other vendor management inventory and just in time, and supplying it to our production line just in time. Because just in time is a precursor to a lean, okay, or probably support the lean thinking process, where probably you have minimization of your inventory, okay, within your process, okay, and so things just come and pull, okay, to production or the need, and just in time when it is needed, so you don't have to have too many stock. Now, so just in time lean thinking, which is probably operating, taking the waste out of your whole operation. That's where the Jacques 7 waste comes from. Okay, it's to be able to reduce the amount of waste which happen within your supply chain. I mean, especially when you look at the sort of manufacturing process we have, which we call mass production, just we're producing just in case somebody will come and buy. Okay, now the opposite is true when we talk about agility. Okay, and agility probably use the concept of just in time and lean. Now, agility means that the supply chain is flexible enough to be able to respond, okay, to events as and when they come. Okay, so it's a response. The rate of response had to be very quick. Okay, and that's what we call agility. Okay, and so I mean, it's also probably bordered on what we call the late customization of needs. So where probably somebody wants something specifically designed for them, we may probably have most of the baseline material and the product, but then we can tweak it to meet a particular standard. Or probably, let's say we want a car and we want to have a bulletproof car for our president because we are worried about people. Yeah, that car could probably have the sense, I mean, but we can strengthen the chassis a little bit. The bodywork will probably, I mean, tighten it a little bit and probably more thickness, and have some toughened glass and other things, bulletproof glasses and other things, and make it more sophisticated. And that will mean that we have customized to that particular need. So late customization, well, mean you have to have a lot of what we call work in progress, so that you can turn the finished product very, very quickly. Okay, is what we call agility. And that comes with what you make, as you go along, you'll see something we call agile. Okay, that is combining the lean and agility together to be able to meet the needs of your customers and suppliers. And that's sometimes what we are trying to do with our relationship, especially when we are around the partnership and co-destiny. I mean, to be able to respond to customer needs very in a timely way, okay, and also to be able to probably beat our competitors, okay, to that aspect as well. Thank you. Yeah.
Okay, we have another one. I would like to know, in the supplier preference, if module, how you as a buyer can move from being viewed as a nuisance to being a development quadrant.
Yeah. I mean, there are two ways probably you can look at it. Now, you have to ask yourself, why are you a nuisance? Now, sometimes it may not come from the procurement function. It may come from another department not fulfilling their role. Probably sometimes supply tell us, because your finance people, we have a contract, we say you should be paid 30 days, and they are taking about 120 days. I mean, which is not fine for the supplier, especially if they're having, they have to manage their cash flow and other things. And so because of that, they will lose interest in your organization because you are not fulfilling that part of your obligation in the relationship. Okay, and so they will consider you as a nuisance, and so you go in the pecking order when you need things, you'll be less considered. Okay, they will look at other people, and probably they will charge you more as well. Okay, and then if you want to move into the quadrant of development, then first of all, you need to iron out all those weaknesses probably you have identified in terms of not paying on time, probably the way you talk to them, okay, probably the power metrics which we're talking about, probably dictating terms and other things, and you are not fulfilling yours. I mean, it turns people nose out of joint. I mean, basically, that's key part. Once you have sorted them, then you have to see what you can do to change, okay, the narrative, okay. And that could also happen whether probably before, if you look at, you'll be coming to do something later, and I'll encourage you all to take that model, category management, okay. I mean, you need to look at the category of what you're managing, okay, and then look at the spend. And you'll find that probably if you look at the organization as a whole, sometimes it's fragmented, okay. Some people are holding the budget and they want to buy, and so there's no coordinated activity to aggregate the spend. Now, if you are able to aggregate the spend, and probably, let's say even whatever it is, probably now probably it's fragmented, and probably what procurement is controlling, say about 300,000, but probably the whole organization is spending about 4 million. That means that you got opportunity to change the narrative and with that supplier, okay, especially if you are going to go into a tender situation or probably even going to go to direct negotiation, you have $4 million or pounds, whatever it is, in your hands to negotiate on. And that people will take note of that. And that is how they can say that there's a potential, okay, with this buying organization. And we ourselves also have to look at our ways of how we work with them and then see whether we could also probably change the narrative and become more closer to them in that aspect. Now, what is more, I didn't go through the procurement marketing metrics, but what is sad is that as a buying organization, you may think that probably you are a core, okay, you see this organization as a core supplier, but then they see you as a nuisance. Means that your relationship is not aligned, and you need therefore to understand why you are in that zone. Okay, you need to do your engagement, you need to do your meet the buyer and all those things. Talk to your suppliers, give them questionnaire, let them tell you how they feel about your organization, and that will help you to build a better relationship with them to go into that zone. Okay, thank you. Yeah.
Okay, last 2 questions. Can I have an example of connected stakeholders? So
your connected stakeholder will be, for example, your bank will give loans to your company, or probably if it is a public company, or probably your shareholders, okay, or the investors, okay, will be your connected stakeholders. And your key suppliers as well, distribution network, could be your key connected stakeholders. Next.
What is the difference between strategic alliance relationship and joint commitment partnership?
Yeah, I think probably, I mean, with the strategic relationship, okay, as I said, is that is it strategic relationship or strategic alliance? Sorry, can I get the question correct?
What is the difference between strategic alliance relationship and a joint commitment partnership?
Well, I think probably the difference is not that much, okay, but the strategic alliance one is probably setting up, working together probably to achieve an outcome, okay, probably more quickly, okay, than probably with a joint commitment, okay, which means that probably there may be some aspect of where you are probably going to do things together, okay, more closer. I mean, strategic alliance, you could probably disband it after some time as well. And as I said, some people will use it as a piggy bank, okay, in another way. But the relationship there could be for just that particular thing, okay, and then later on, you don't do anything with that supplier again, okay. With the joint commitment partnership, there could be other product and future development ideas which will come out of the partnership, and probably you'll be working more closer with them in the long now for the current need, but also looking at future needs as well. Good. So I think
those are the last questions.
That's the last question. Okay.
Yes.
Yeah. I hope it has been useful for all of you, and that helped to demystify some of the things around this paper. And you go with confidence to do your exams, I believe, next week. I wish you all the best, and I hope you are successful whatever you do. If you need any support or anything, I think probably our email is there and our contact is there. You can reach out, and then we'll be happy to see how we can help you in one of our offices.